Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk for a Thursday. Did you wake up and go outside and see all the rain? It was rainy when I came in, and certainly it was wet roads out there this morning. It's going to be wet throughout much of the day, including this evening when we could see more showers. That's a live look from our Midtown High 5 camera. Lots of clouds out there. Again, still kind of wet. Live look from downtown. You can see, yeah, it is cloudy. It is certainly overcast. One of those days where we could see showers off and on throughout much of the day. After we get through today, though, it should be shaping up for a nice weekend ahead. Meteorologist Sergey Galindo has an update on your forecast.
Hey, and First Alert meteorologist Sergey Galindo. A couple of spotty showers as we go through the morning hours. By this afternoon and evening, we'll see more rain and even some storms filling in. You can see we're under a low threat for severe weather. It's a category 1 out of 5. Most of the energy with this system is going to be right along the coast, but we can't rule out that any storms that do develop on the stronger side could produce some gusty wind and hail, and definitely the potential for some heavy rainfall. That's going to be the highest, a 7 out of 10, wind 4 out of 10, and hail on the lower side, a 2 out of 10. We'll watch this closely. Here is the reason why. We're tracking an area of low pressure and a cold front that's going to be moving toward the east. That will bring that potential for some isolated storms as well as some rain. So as we go through time, again, just a spotty shower or two as we go through the lunch hour. Right around noon, most of those showers will be off to the north, Blytheville, Brownsville, potentially seeing some of that. I think we'll see a break, a nice dry slot, and that could allow some breaks in those clouds. Now, those breaks could mean that the atmosphere could become more unstable with those temperatures heating up. So the more cloudy we say, the less likely we'll see storms. The more sunshine we see, the more likely we could see some isolated strong storms. So right around 5 o'clock, this particular model does show some breaks in those clouds, which could mean, again, some isolated to scattered showers and storms, which you see right around 7 o'clock starting to approach the area. Some of it, again, could be in the form of some very heavy rain at 8 o'clock. Could be tracking some heavy rain and storms in eastern Arkansas and North Mississippi. That starts to push west of the Mississippi River, east of the Mississippi River rather, into the metro, Memphis and Shelby County. Right around 9 o'clock, I think you could be seeing some heavy rain by then. That heavy rain threat will expand more into West Tennessee and North Mississippi as we head around 9, 10 o'clock. And then by 11, it really starts to lose its punch when it comes to that system. It starts to weaken as it moves off toward the east. So we'll just be left with a few showers right around midnight, and we'll dry out after that. Rainfall totals, they're going to vary, but it'll be anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, really depending upon location and where we get in on some of that heavy rainfall from some of those potential storms. Here's a look at the temperatures for today, starting off in the 50s, but climbing into the upper 60s this afternoon. Scattered showers and storms starting at 3 o'clock, lasting into tonight. 57 degrees is where we'll fall tonight. Rain and storms mainly before midnight, and those winds out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's a look at your forecast for tomorrow. It's going to be dry. We are going to be left with some clouds, though. Temperatures in the low 70s. I think we'll see increasingly more sunshine as we get into the afternoon. Northwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Let's talk about where we go from there. For your weekend, it's actually coming in a bit drier. 20% chance for some showers on Saturday, but Sunday I think will be rain-free and even into your Monday. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast. You can see those temperatures. They're going to remain pretty steady for most of the week. Not until Wednesday will we really head right around our average, which is 75. But today, 69 degrees, 71 on Friday. Again, there is that small chance for a couple of showers on Saturday, and it looks like the timing now will put most of that in the morning, but we'll watch it for any changes. By Sunday, 70 degrees under partly cloudy skies, and then Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday, we are looking at just a lot of sunshine and dry conditions.
Okay, board members are now revealing why the former West Memphis, Arkansas School District Superintendent was fired. Bria Bolden was at a special meeting where they accepted a contract for an interim superintendent, but one board member there says they broke policy in order to do all this. Take a listen.
When this came out, we were all shocked. I remember sitting in that meeting a couple weeks ago, confused and shocked. My jaw was on the floor because I was like, what in the world is going on, and what does this mean for the future of our school district?
The new interim, a familiar face to Memphis. Willie Rhodes served as an assistant superintendent for Memphis Shelby County Schools in the past. Board President Joanne Faulkner says they're looking for a leader to improve the district as a whole.
We reached out for someone who was willing to come to this district on an interim basis to allow us to transition to new leadership. We've had this leadership for about 11 months now, and it wasn't working.
However, concerns were raised that Rhodes didn't have the qualifications to be the interim superintendent. Board member Kimberly Wolf tells us they're breaking their own policy. Wolf adds Rhodes needs a district-level administrator's license, and according to his contract agreed on Wednesday night, he must have it in the next 60 days.
At the end of the day, our community deserves to know that there are board members fighting for what is right and to follow policies and to make sure that everybody has equal opportunities to pursue vacancies within this district. It's ugly right now, but I do believe all things work together.
The board ultimately voted to accept his contract as interim. The entire process not sitting well with parents who say they just want transparency from district leaders.
It's in their best interest that they build confidence in us, and they do that when they do things that are above board and in plain sight. And they can fire him for no cause. They said they can. Okay, but you still owe us an explanation. And when they disregard that, I tell you, the confidence has been shattered.
That was Bree Bolden reporting. Rhodes will be paid $600 a day. Our newsroom has requested video of the meeting last week when the former superintendent was fired and any and all personnel files for the former superintendent and the interim superintendent. We have not received a response to that. Shelby County Democrats speaking out against Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton, calling for him to resign. County Democrats say that there should be corrective action against Republican Representative Paul Sherrill, who spoke out in support of lynching as a form of capital punishment. The statement also criticizes Speaker Sexton's support of expelling 3 Tennessee Democrats for knowingly breaking House rules and protesting gun laws for an hour with a bullhorn on the floor of the State House. The quote that was released here, it says that the Speaker refused to hold accountable the members of the Republican Party, brazenly and repeatedly demonstrated a lack of respect for our democracy. Now, County Democrats did praise Governor Bill Lee in a statement offering their support for his proposed order of protection gun law that he is proposing in the state. Let's talk about former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. He officially threw in his hat in the ring for president in 2024. He announced his candidacy in his hometown of Bentonville, Arkansas, and outlined key points of his platform there. And it was yesterday that he did all that, and he is expected to be on the campaign trail later today. Some of those positions that he mentioned, want to show this as well. Increased support for Ukraine and Taiwan, downsizing the FBI to focus on counterterrorism, a firm stance against student loan forgiveness, and advancing STEM education to compete with China as a leader in the world economy. Okay, let's talk about Shelby County taxpayers. Get ready to do your math. The mayor is proposing a more than $1 billion budget, dropping property taxes, increasing the county's wheel tax. Kelly Cook reports on the proposal that would make landmark investments in education in the county-owned Regional 1 hospital.
The way that we do cut the people taxes, but we give them the hope that someday their community don't have to be the war zone that it is, and that our cars don't have to be stolen every night.
Shelby County Commissioner Charlie Caswell was just one of several commissioners expressing concern with the proposed penny tax cut to property taxes. The current tax rate is $3.39. The mayor is proposing to drop it to $3.38. So for a resident with a $100,000 home, that adds up to about $2 a year in savings. It may not seem like much, but the mayor says the tax cut sends an important message.
you go about the business of being more efficient and eliminating wasteful spending is you bring down your property taxes. If you can bring down your property taxes, it gets everyone to be more watchful around how they're spending public dollars.
Mayor Harris presented an ambitious budget which focused on two items: $9.9 million to fund a new high school in Fraser and $350 million over 5 years to rebuild Regional 1 Hospital.
There's no other place for miles and miles around that can deliver level 1 trauma care. It's just Regional 1. And so we want that place to be open, we want it to be enduring, and we want it to be stable.
Harris's budget also dedicates more than $1 million of recurring funds for the Violence Interruption Program. It's similar to the city's 901 Block Squad, intervention for gunshot victims for things like mentorship, job placement, and mental health. But the budget comes in what the mayor calls unprecedented times, a 24% reduction in personal property evaluations.
Difficult times like these, we can't stop delivering on promises to our community.
All right, well, graduation season is upon us, and whether it's high school graduation and maybe wanting to further your education or enter the workforce, or college graduates accepting a new job, financial decisions can be so stressful, and just trying to navigate through that can be very difficult. So joining us to talk a little bit more about it is Ashley Feinstein-Gerstley. She's the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Ashley, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
So I guess the first thing I want to do is just dive right in. Let's talk about maybe what are some of the biggest mistakes or things that these young adults, whether it's 18 into your early 20s, where maybe they're making mistakes financially. What would you say is probably some of the biggest problems or things that they just don't know about?
Yes, I'd say two big things. The first, and I did both of these things, so it's coming from experience, is to wait to save until we have enough money to save. So there's this idea, and how we traditionally view saving is we earn money, we live our lives, we pay everybody else, and then we hope and wait that there will be money left over to save. And in my experience, that just doesn't work for most people. Even when we get a raise, there's still not money. So I would say pay ourselves first, pay yourself first is something that I would highly, highly recommend. And then the other is not having a plan. And I know that budgets get a bad rap. We think they might be restricting, they might limit our fun, but I view them as an act of self-love, because when we have a budget, we have a plan, we have peace of mind, we can build in things that are fun and have no guilt as we spend them, and just have clarity about where our money is going and reach our financial goals. So I would say not having a plan and waiting to save until we make more money are the two biggest mistakes that I see.
And when you talk about saving, is there a certain rule of thumb when you say you want to maybe save back this percentage of the money you're bringing in, or does it just depend on each individual's budget and what kind of money they're bringing in? What advice would you have for that?
Yes, so I would say it does depend. I am not a big fan of having a certain percentage as far as saving and investing and retirement, but I would say first and foremost, you want to have that crisis fund saved up. So that first $1,000, that first 1 month of expenses, and then from there building up to have a fully funded rainy day fund. So in case something happens with an illness or with our job, that we have money to pay for our expenses for 3 months, 6 months, depending on your personal situation.
And this is just a question for me, because I think way back, back in the day, a lot of people would have their checkbook and they would go in, and every time they would write a check, they would go in, they'd balance their checkbook. They had an idea of the money that was coming in, coming out. Do you feel like that now people really aren't using that checkbook and it's harder to maybe keep up with the money you're spending? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I think technology has done some great things, but it makes it very easy to have no idea where our money is going. Even if you think about checkbooks are a great example, credit cards, we don't feel the pain of what we spent until the bill goes through. Swiping our credit card, hopping in and out of a Lyft, we're not even really paying. So I think I'm a huge fan of having what I call money parties, which are time that we set aside to look at what's happened with our money over the last month or the last week. So actually go through and look at those expenses, because it is so easy to lose track of them. And I've had that experience where you see the credit card bill and you say, that wasn't me, but then you go through each and every expense and you realize realize, these things just add up. So having that time, if we don't look at our expenses, it's just not going to happen. And we need to carve out that time for ourselves.
Do you feel like that generation, you just get out of high school, you're coming out of college, that little group right there, a lot of times they're finally getting out of the house, they're starting to support themselves. Do you think that some of the biggest mistakes start off with credit cards, and maybe every time you go to a store and they say, well, you get 20% off if you apply for a credit card? Do you feel like that this generation can sometimes fall victim to that when it comes to credit cards? What are some of the biggest mistakes?
Yes. So I actually was one of the people who had that happen to me, and I didn't even understand how credit cards worked. I remember by the time I paid my bill, I had so many late fees. And so I do think there's this idea that it actually is something that I wish I knew when I graduated from school, that most people, we don't learn about this. And I'm seeing it more and more being taught in schools, which is wonderful. And I know parents want to be sharing this information with their kids, but they might not feel like they're equipped to do so. And so I do think there's this feeling when we graduate that we're the only ones who don't understand, and there can feel this like taboo of talking about it and asking questions. And what I've found is that most of us don't understand, and we're all learning as we go, and we're learning the hard way. And so I do think that helps to feel less alone as we navigate this. But then also, yes, to really, I think there's a lot working against us when it comes to personal finance, and that we're not educated about it. There's like with the credit card, there's probably 50 pages of small print that I could have read to understand it. So I would definitely caution to really understand any financial products that we sign up for. Talk to people about it, because if they don't understand and you don't understand, you might be able to find someone else, or to go and figure it out together can feel less lonely as we navigate this.
I remember when I was in starting in college, credit card companies, they actually would set up booths on campus, and you would end up getting a credit card, and it would have this incredibly high interest rate, but you weren't educated on what to even look for, what to consider. So I mean, I can see how credit cards can really get people into trouble. I do want to switch gears though. Student loans. When a lot of people rely on student loans to be able to go to school, what kind of advice would you give when people start looking to see how much they need to be borrowing? Because they do have to pay that back at some point.
Yes, so when we're going to, there's actually a chapter in the book dedicated to debt. So understanding credit cards, understanding student loans. And I think when we think about financing college, there are a lot of pieces that fund the pie. So there could be grants, there could be financial aid, there could be federal loans, there could be private loans. But at the beginning, when we're trying to figure out how much to take out, ideally we can minimize that pie. And in interviewing some experts on student loans for the book, I found that people actually can negotiate with their universities on what they're able to help them provide. In the worst case, that they say no, but then you're able to take out less debt, and then also to shop around with those private loans, just because we might think that that first offer we get is the best offer that we're going to get, but actually the offers can vary as far as interest rates. And when we're talking about numbers that are that big, it can make a huge difference if we're paying a 6% interest rate or an 8% interest rate or a 4% interest rate on our student loan. So I would say try to reduce the amount as much as possible, and then shop around for the best rate on those private loans.
Good advice. Now, for those that are maybe graduating college, they're getting into the workforce, what are the biggest pieces of advice that you would want to send to them as far as their finances go?
I'd say the biggest, so first, again, just you're not alone in figuring this out, and financial adulting, so that is the name of my new book. Being a financial adult is about taking small, consistent steps. And so I think sometimes with a lot of different goals, but specifically our finances, we view improving in that area that it has to be this overnight transformation, that I wake up, I spend the whole weekend making my financial plan, and I'm a new person. But that sets us up for failure because it's too much of a jump. And so taking small, consistent steps that are manageable, that feel like we can keep improving, I think is the way to go, because then we're improving and learning all year round. And then something that I wished that I did more of, and I know that so many looking back at the beginning of their careers wish they did, is start saving for retirement. Because when we're starting young, we have so much time to allow our money to grow and compound, and it just makes it so much easier on us later. And that money is coming out pre-tax typically when it's a 401k, so it actually feels less painful than you'd expect. So I'd say looking back, that's something that a lot of people that I talk to wish they put more aside for retirement and let it grow for them.
And we've talked so much here at the Digital Desk about debt and what debt can do as far as your mental health and various other things that it can do. Do you feel, I love the name of the financial adulting. I love that. But do you feel like that one reason you decided to put this book together is because a lot of times people build up that debt while they're young, and then after they get out of college, they've built up all this debt as they're starting their new job. Do you feel like a lot of that debt ends up getting built up early on in life, and then you're just spending time trying to pay it back?
Definitely is a big part of stress in the younger generation, and something you mentioned about the booths during college and getting a free t-shirt and having, understanding that when we're paying that minimum payment, it isn't actually potentially making any dent in the balance, and our credit card could still be growing. So there's so much there, and I do think there's so much shame. First of all, there's a lot of stress around debt, especially when we're starting our careers and we might not have a lot of extra income to go towards those debt payments, but then also just the shame that comes with debt. And so I first love to talk, in the book I talk about what debt is, and it's really just money we owe for something we bought. It doesn't mean we're bad or that we did something wrong, or it could be a certain time in our life, it could be a mistake we made. But from there, really, I think sometimes when we have so much shame around the debt, it has us even not look at it. So I take everyone through a 3-step process to make a plan to manage and pay down debt by starting with looking at what it actually is. And that can be as stressful as that sounds to list out all that information. It can be really eye-opening. And then once we know what's happening, we can make a plan to manage it. So always better to have that information than to not look.
And educating yourself about what you need to know is so important. And you were mentioning about paying that minimum. I had a friend that during that age time between 18, early 20s, she got a bunch of credit cards and she told me, she's like, just pay the minimum payment. And I'm like, this is terrible advice. I guess any final points you want to make before we let you go?
I go back to that taking small, consistent steps. And you mentioned earlier why I wrote this book. And because so many of the things that you're mentioning are things that I made mistakes with. And I studied finance, I worked in finance, and I still knew nothing about my own finances. And so this is something that we are not set up for. So we want to learn as much as we can. And my goal is in writing this book and in the work I do that others don't have to make the same mistakes that I did and can progress through their financial lives with a lot less stress and potentially heartache.
Well, Ashley Feinstein-Gerstley, the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing some really great advice and some really good tips for our viewers this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Amanda Hansen here at the Digital Desk. I want to tell you about an upcoming event, Child Abuse Awareness 2023. It's happening Sunday, April 30th at 3 p.m. And joining me live on the Digital Desk this morning, Barbara Love. Good morning, Barbara. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to have you on and talking about this upcoming event. I know this is being put on by the Love Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about the Love Foundation and the mission?
Sure. The Love Foundation is a organization that provides love and care for women and children that have been through domestic violence and sexual abuse. We service people through the city, and we like to talk, share, show them love, and let them know they're not alone.
And I believe we maybe talked to you last year. I think you put on a similar event last year. Can you talk about why this mission and this organization is just so important for you?
Well, first and foremost, children are our future, for one, and they didn't ask to be here. But me being myself being sexually assaulted as a child, living through a parent that was supposed to be my protector ended up being my predator. Like many kids, they're living a life of not being able to tell. And for me, I want to make awareness where they understand that it is people that is just like them, and there are people that care. And I want to make sure that if nobody else get the awareness, I can let them know that I am here for them.
You're taking that pain and using it for a purpose, and I think that's incredible.
Absolutely. And I'm using it as a platform.
Absolutely. And being able to share your story makes people connect with you even more that maybe have experienced something like that. I do want to talk about the event, though, because obviously it's all about awareness, and it's coming up April 30th. Tell us more about it.
It is. This event is it's bringing knowledge and bringing awareness to the community. And one of the biggest thing is that we have people from all over the community that is getting involved. We have dance teams like Elite Fire Reds, GHS, Prince and Tiger Reds, Dance Divas. We have Star Steppers. We have teams and speakers that want to come out and want to help in this event because this feels so close to their heart, and they want to be able to have an opportunity to give back to the community, and also to let them know that they're not alone as well. So this event is very dear to each and every one of us, and I'm just thankful that they're actually coming out to be able to help with this event.
And I know you have here on the flyer just some of the speakers that are going to be there. Can you talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, so Sir Kilo is a motivational speaker. He speaks to kids all over the world. He talks to them about being, about self-love, knowing your worth, knowing that you can grow, you can be better than what anybody says you can be. Because anybody knows that normally when you are having abused, a lot of times people say you're not going to be anybody, you're not going to make yourself, you're not going to be anybody, or you're not going to make yourself better than you were. So with Sir Kilo, he gives you that motivation where you are somebody. And so that's why I chose him to be a part of this event, because I know that he makes a difference already in the community. And I know that the kids will gravitate to him and understand exactly where he's coming from.
Absolutely, and I love it. It looks like there's going to be all kinds of stuff, the free ice cream, the bouncers. I like the idea of a TikTok dance area. I think that's a lot of fun. And so it just sounds like it's going to be a great event. And obviously there is a mission here that you're hoping to accomplish. Can you talk about that?
Right. The mission to accomplish is to build relationships with the people in our community, stand in as a gap, to where they don't have to worry about nobody's being there for them. And also to let them know that this is a non-judgmental event. It's a non-judgmental thing that we're doing for the community. And we want them to know that we are here for them at all costs, And we want to show them love.
So I know obviously y'all have done events like this before. How was the turnout at those, and what kind of response do you get from people in the community when you host these?
Well, the turnout we normally get a great turnout. Normally people, when they come out, they may not speak at that moment when the event is going on, but it's always the after fact. They always call, they text, they go to the social media page. And they just, give me all this information, and they want to be a part, and they want the help. They just don't want to say the help, in person. So it's a great help for the community. It's a lot of people that's hurting. They want to get help, and they want to heal.
Absolutely, and it's great that you are someone that's stepped up to the plate to be able to help to be that resource for people. Barbara, anything else you want to mention? I know you also were talking about the Facebook page. Where can people go to maybe find out more about the event and your organization?
They can go to the Love Foundation Inc. Facebook page. Also, I want to let them know that Love Foundation wants to raise awareness, which makes people cautious about the problem and the issues that are going on in our community. And our goal is to make people understand that the importance is to support it and address it. It's no more secrets. Let's tell and let's get it addressed.
Well, Barbara Love, I really appreciate you taking time to join us here on the Digital Desk. And I know the event is going to be a success, and I know you're going to reach a lot of people. So I appreciate you. You have a good morning, all right?
All right. Thank you so very much.
Okay, creating healthy boundaries. Boy, that is a goal for so many people. It doesn't really matter what age is either. I mean, when you're younger, when you're in your teens, your 20s, or even as older adults, we want to create healthy boundaries. Let's bring in right now Alice White. She's a counselor at Methodist Le Bonheur. Good morning, Alice. Let's talk about what healthy boundaries actually means. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for having me. So, first of all, I'd like to kind of define even what is a boundary. And the APA defines a boundary as a psychological separation that protects the integrity of an individual or a group, or that it helps an individual or group set realistic expectations or limits on participation in a relationship or an activity.
So how do you know if you are one of those who really needs to, identify a healthy boundary and work towards that? I mean, how do you know if you don't have healthy boundaries, I guess?
So I want you to ask yourself a few questions. Maybe ask yourself, like, what is causing you stress right now? Maybe who or what drains your energy, but also who or what makes you feel supported. Those might be some questions that can help you figure out where you need to set boundaries.
Okay. All right. I'm following you so far. So, we have the healthy boundaries. We want to set them. And sometimes we need others to kind of know that we're trying to set these healthy boundaries. What's the best way to tell them without, upsetting them?
So we like to use, in the counseling realm, we like to use I statements. And so I would start out by coming from yourself. So I need X, Y, or Z. Try to be clear, straightforward, show them exactly what your boundary may look like. Being assertive and direct will help with clear communication, and also being firm in your communication to reiterate what your boundary is and what that expectation looks like.
My understanding is sometimes people feel guilty about telling folks, okay, hey, I need to set these healthy boundaries. How can we not feel guilty about doing this? I mean, it's about self-improvement and being self-aware and trying to make ourselves better for not just ourselves, but for everyone else, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest thing I think when we maybe break our own boundaries is that feeling of guilt. And that's a really heavy emotion to feel. Maybe we feel we're making ourselves feel guilty, or the other person that we're setting a boundary, it makes us feel guilty. So kind of how to deal with that. Remember kind of the reason why you're setting the boundary. The big reason for me is to protect myself, right? So remembering that you're doing this for you and that it protects you. You're not trying to hurt another person. You're trying to protect yourself.
How often do we need to reevaluate our boundaries? I mean, we could set it great in, 2 years ago, but then now some other issues have come up. Maybe we've changed jobs or what have you. How often should we reevaluate?
I would say in the beginning, when you set a new boundary, kind of checking in after you've implemented that boundary a few times. Check in and make sure, is this boundary working? Is it are people respecting my boundary? Am I holding up my own boundary? So I think early on, you want to check in with yourself. And then if you feel like it's not working or other people aren't respecting your boundary, then that's when you need to reevaluate your boundaries.
Gotcha. This is interesting stuff here. Alice, where can we go to get some of the information you mentioned here? It'd be nice to maybe find a website to do that.
Yeah, so Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare has an online blog that you can go to, and I believe it's yourhealth.methodisthealth.org, and it has a lot of different articles on there, whether it's medical or mental health.
Okay, Alice White with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare, counselor, talking about healthy boundaries. We appreciate your time, Alice. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so Memphis Shelby County Schools, they want students and parents to be on alert this morning. Joyce Peterson reporting that Memphis police have teamed up with the FBI to find the man responsible for abducting and sexually assaulting young girls in South Memphis. Here is Joyce's report.
In the heart of South Memphis, fear fills the heart of mothers like Sierra Dowdy.
I was molested, so there's, one thing I fear the most for, young girls, especially like me having 2 daughters. Don't nothing bother me more than it.
Memphis police believe the same suspect abducted and sexually assaulted several young girls over the last few weeks as they walked to Hamilton K-8 and Hamilton High in the following neighborhoods: Gaslight, Bunker Hill, and Cane Creek. MPD confirms one attack happened April 13th at the corner of Silver Street and Ethlyn Avenue. Investigators say the suspect is a black man in his early 20s driving a dark-colored SUV. Memphis Shelby County Schools issued a safety alert Wednesday, telling parents and students to be alert and be aware. MSCS Interim Superintendent Tony Williams said, "We are asking our families and community to assist us by being extra sets of eyes and ears. In this moment," she said, "we must unite and work together to keep our children safe." MSCS Commissioner Frank Johnson represents the Hamilton District. "It is all hands on deck," he says.
Talk to your children about what's happening. Let them know. If you can, tell your children to walk in groups. If you can walk to school with them, let's try to walk to school with them.
The FBI and Shelby County Sheriff's Office now working with MPD to crack this case. There will be additional patrols in the area and more MSCS security guards at the schools. And eagle-eyed neighbors like Annetta Berry are ready to get this dangerous creep off the street.
When we sit outside, myself and my neighbors, a couple of my neighbors and her, we'll sit outside and watch these babies. And we're going to have to be more vigilant as far as our babies and grandbabies and other children are out here playing, because it takes a village.
Joyce Peterson reporting there. All right, so each and every month, what we like to do is talk with Google, because a lot of times, we kind of get an inclination of what's happening in the world, what's happening in this country when it comes to the searches that Google gets each and every month or throughout a given time period to really kind of understand, what people are talking about, what they're looking up, how they're seeing certain things. And so each month we like to bring in a Google expert. We have Google technical expert Jennifer Jones joining us on the digital desk this morning. And Jennifer, good morning to you. I always like going and looking at kind of the odd trends, the odd news for the month of April as we review different things. And I have to say, nail art. Is there any explanation why nail art was one of the things that people searched in Google this month? How are you?
I'm great, and I'm also quite interested in the huge trend of nail art. It's certainly something that seems to not be new. Last year, there were about 5 billion, with a B, billion global searches on YouTube for nail art. It's quite a trend, and it's something that we're seeing in an increasing popularity across YouTube and across the creator trends.
Yeah, it's something that I'm actually going to have to Google later today, to figure out exactly what the deal is behind all this. But looking at some other searches, I'm seeing, entertainment, the Barbie movie, Coachella, of course, culture. We have Easter and Passover. No surprise there, along with Tax Day. Science, with Earth Day this month. I mean, a lot of things happening in the month of April. Did you see maybe more searches this month than previous months?
Well, it certainly depends on the topic. You hit a few of the entertainment highlights, which are always popular among folks who turn to Google and across the globe. You're right, Barbie did drive the searches in April. No surprise there. It's a highly anticipated film, which is going to be directed by Greta Gerwig and packed with Hollywood stars, but a huge increase in searching for Barbie. And anything Barbie core or Barbie related this last month.
Right, and it's interesting looking at everything that's happened in the month. I mean, NBA basketball, of course, we're in Memphis. The Grizzlies won last night and so they've made the series with the Lakers 3-2. I see that the NBA scoring record was something people searched, along with the Masters. Of course, that was just a couple of weeks ago. And pickleball. And we know everyone that loves pickleball is the first thing out of their mouth is, well, it's the fastest growing sport in America. I get that, but I guess now people are finally searching it now, huh?
Yeah, you're right. And there's a lot of interest in general about the sport. There are people who are searching with a deeper interest in the sport who maybe have played for a while, who are searching, what is the best pickleball paddle to use. And then we've seen a large trend of just some basics about the sport, like what is pickleball? How is it played? Can you play it on a tennis court? So it seems that it's all over the map with the level of interest, but I don't think that it's going away.
Yeah, there's no question. The local gym where I go, it's like pickleball courts have taken over some of the basketball courts. Something else when it comes to food, you guys always list kind of food there. National Burrito Day, and I'm assuming that was in April. And our country's fascination with Taco Tuesday and just either Tex-Mex or Mexican food. Not surprised National Burrito Day was at the top of the list. What were people searching for with regards to that?
Yeah, so local burrito spots near me were very popular as far as, utilizing Google Maps and being able to find a spot next to you to get a quick burrito. We saw some top trends with several local chains, but also some national chains when it comes to the delicious treat of a burrito. It's such a versatile and easy to eat dish. Not surprisingly to many, Chipotle was the #1 national researched burrito chain, followed closely by Qdoba, and then Moe's Burritos came in third in our top trends across April for burritos.
What else kind of made your eyebrows go up a little bit looking at the list for April trends? Anything else?
Coachella, of course, we talked about it briefly at the top. It was a hugely popular trend, one of our largest trends. A lot of folks wondering about how many people attend the 2-week festival in California, which is held every April. If you want to know, about 250 people over the 2 weeks of Coachella. And of course, a lot of folks were interested in headliner Frank Ocean, who took the stage on the first weekend, but then had a bit of a difficult set and wasn't able to return for the second weekend and was replaced by another band. And so a lot of people were searching about news for Frank and news for who was going to replace him.
Okay, interesting. Well, we have our own Beale Street Music Festival coming up in about a week or so. So that's something that we're going to be watching. These are all fascinating. Just kind of see where the country is, the current events, that sort of thing. People are watching. I know that people can see these Google trends for themselves. Tell us where we can find it.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for me to come on a monthly basis. You can go anytime and see what is trending and what is spiking live at google.com/trends. Check it out and let us know what you think.
Jennifer Jones with Google, we appreciate you breaking down the trends for April. Thanks very much.
Always a pleasure.
Hey, I'm First Alert meteorologist Segay Galindo. A couple of spotty showers as we go through the morning hours. By this afternoon and evening, we'll see more rain and even some storms filling in. You can see we're under a low threat for severe weather. It's a category 1 out of 5. Most of the energy with this system is going to be right along the coast, but we can't rule out that any storms that do develop on the stronger side could produce some gusty wind and hail, and definitely the potential for some heavy rainfall. That's going to be the highest, a 7 out of 10, wind 4 out of 10. And hail on the lower side, a 2 out of 10. We'll watch this closely. Here is the reason why. We're tracking an area of low pressure and a cold front that's going to be moving toward the east. That will bring that potential for some isolated storms as well as some rain. So as we go through time, again, just a spotty shower or two as we go through the lunch hour. Right around noon, most of those showers will be off to the north, Blytheville, Brownsville, potentially seeing some of that. I think we'll see a break, a nice dry slot, and that could allow some breaks in those clouds. Now, those breaks could mean that the atmosphere could become more unstable with those temperatures heating up. So the more cloudy we say, the less likely we'll see storms. The more sunshine we see, the more likely we could see some isolated strong storms. So right around 5 o'clock, this particular model does show some breaks in those clouds, which could mean, again, some isolated to scattered showers and storms, which you see right around 7 o'clock starting to approach the area. Some of it, again, could be in the form of some very heavy rain at 8 o'clock. Could be tracking some heavy rain and storms in eastern Arkansas and North Mississippi. That starts to push west of the Mississippi River, east of the Mississippi River rather, into the metro, Memphis and Shelby County. Right around 9 o'clock, I think you could be seeing some heavy rain by then. That heavy rain threat will expand more into West Tennessee and North Mississippi as we head around 9, 10 o'clock. And then by 11, it really starts to lose its punch when it comes to that system. It starts to weaken as it moves off toward the east. So we'll just be left with a few showers right around midnight, and we'll dry out after that. Rainfall totals, they're going to vary, but it'll be anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, really depending upon location and where we get in on some of that heavy rainfall from some of those potential storms. Here's a look at the temperatures for today, starting off in the 50s, but climbing into the upper 60s this afternoon. Scattered showers and storms starting at 3 o'clock, lasting into tonight. 57 degrees is where we'll fall tonight. Rain and storms mainly before midnight, and those winds out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's a look at your forecast for tomorrow. It's going to be dry. We are going to be left with some clouds, though. Temperatures in the low 70s. I think we'll see increasingly more sunshine as we get into the afternoon. Northwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Let's talk about where we go from there. For your weekend, it's actually coming in a bit drier. 20% chance for some showers on Saturday, but Sunday I think will be rain-free and even into your Monday. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast. You can see those temperatures. They're going to remain pretty steady for most of the week. Not until Wednesday will we really head right around our average, which is 75. But today 69 degrees, 71 on Friday. Again, there is that small chance for a couple of showers on Saturday, and it looks like the timing now will put most of that in the morning, but we'll watch it for any changes. By Sunday, 70 degrees under partly cloudy skies, and then Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday, we are looking at just a lot of sunshine and dry conditions.
Hey, it's Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and I want to tell you about this nonprofit that is dedicated to helping foster children that's making its way to the Memphis area, and I think it's going to do some incredible work. I'm so excited to talk to you about this more. We have Virginia Roberts that's joining us now with Isaiah 117 House. Good morning, Virginia. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to be talking with you. I think this is a great topic, and I think that the work that this nonprofit is going to bring to Memphis is going to be incredible. I've done several stories in the past with children that have been in the foster care system and aged out, and they always talked about the foster care system being broken in so many ways. I think that what this nonprofit is going to do here in the Memphis area is going to be great. So let's talk a little bit more about Isaiah 117 House and what it's all about.
Great. So the Isaiah 117 House actually began in the heart of Rhonda Paulson back in 2014. She and her husband in Elizabethton, Tennessee started their foster care classes to become a foster parent. And one of those classes involves going to a DCS office and kind of seeing what the process looks like. And at that time, they found out that children, often when they're removed from their home, go to wait a placement in the DCS office, which feels a lot like the DMV. It was never intended for children. And post-COVID, things take a lot longer for the placements. There's fewer foster families and such. And so at that time, she just said, what if there was a home where the children could come rather than going to a DCS office to sit and wait, that they could go to a house where there would be volunteers there who is their job to lavishly love on these children. They'd be offered a bubble bath or a hot shower, home cooked meals. They could play outside with volunteers, all while the caseworker gets to have a private office where they can make those phone calls for the placements and just find the right placement. The volunteer gets to help take care of the child, lighten the load of the caseworker. And then when they do find a placement, we help ease that transition for the foster child and the family by helping provide them with whatever they need, car seats, formula, clothes. And so it just really changes the way that foster care begins.
And I think that's so important because, like you said, the DHS, it was not set up for a kid to be sitting in there, and just the emotional and the trauma that those children are already experiencing. So having something like this is great. And I love that this started in Elizabethton, Tennessee. My dad actually grew up in Elizabethton, Tennessee, small world. But you know, I know that this is this is something that you're passionate about. Can you share a little bit about your story?
Sure, I would love to. So our family began our foster care journey about 7 years ago, and we sat in the same classes to become a foster family. And I can remember thinking about what removal day might look like for a child. And at that time, I was imagining a child being rescued from a bad situation, immediately taken to a loving foster home where they would just automatically feel safe and all would be well. But after 7 years, I've tragically realized that is not removal day. Removal day is a child's worst day. It's a day where they have a stranger that comes into their home, says, you need to come with me. Here's a bag to pack some of your things. There's a lot of maybe chaos in the house. They're being taken away from everything they've ever known, their mom, their pets, maybe their favorite blanket that they forgot, and all of the shuffle. And then they're taken to a place that was never intended for children to wait. So after we finished our foster care classes, we've had many placements and people through our house, or children through our house. And in November of 2020, we actually adopted our youngest son, Josiah, through foster care. And so at that time, we had 5 kids, 9 and under. And I can remember our caseworker, she started to write the paperwork to close our home. And we said, no, just wait, we know the numbers, we know the need. At this time, there's over 1,200 children in foster care just in Shelby County. That's more than double the next county in Tennessee. And so we said, no, we've got more room in our heart, more room in our home, even though our septic system would probably tell you differently. And so we said, we can take a teen girl because there's a huge need for foster families to take teenagers. So it wasn't long before we got a phone call, not for 1 girl, but for 2 teen girls. And when they call you for a placement, they only tell you what you need to know. So we didn't know that me and Trinity had spent 7 long days bouncing between a DCS office and emergency respite placement so that they would have a place to rest their head that night. We didn't know that they had spent 7 days hearing rejection call after rejection call, just feeling unloved and unwanted. And so we also didn't know that we were the very last call that they were making before they split the sisters up and started back at the top of the list. So thankfully we said yes. That day they came into our home, and a short 6 months later, they became a part of our forever family. We adopted them as well. So now we have 7 children, 3 that have gone through the foster care system that we've adopted. So it's very close to our heart. It's would have changed their story a lot if there would have been a home that they could have gone to.
Yeah, and I love that you brought in both of the sisters where they didn't have to get split up. I had a meteorologist that worked with me when I was in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and he went through the adoption process, and he was initially going to adopt 1 child, but then it was going to be separating 2 sisters, so he took in both. And so you find that happens a lot. You know, I told you I was doing stories about, you know, working with children that had aged out, and they were separated from their siblings and then trying to find their siblings again. So, you know, it was great that you were able to do that. And did you always feel like that adoption and fostering was something that you were interested in doing?
When my husband and I were actually dating forever ago, it was always kind of a conversation that we felt like adoption was going to be a part of our family. And then when we started to want to have a family, we were looking at private domestic adoption. We did some things through Life Choices. But then as we were having children, we kind of transitioned away from that because private adoption can be very expensive. And so that's when we kind of looked into foster care, and we were an open home with Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. And we, at that point, after we'd taken the classes, and like I said, we knew the numbers and the need, our hearts were just broken. And we said, whether this ends in adoption or not, this is what we're called to do.
And I know you at one point we talked about just trying to find those foster homes. Is there a lack of people that are being a part of that foster care system? I know you were mentioning 1,200 kids right here in Shelby County. I mean, that's just devastating to think about in itself. What message would you send to those who maybe have thought about being a foster parent and just how great this need is?
Yeah, there's a huge need. They're always having the classes. It's an 8-week class called Tennessee Key. The first one is completely informational that you can just go to. There's no commitment. You can hear about what the needs are in our county and kind of what it might look like. And so I would encourage anyone, Tennessee Baptist Children's Homes are always having them. And then Department of Children's Services has them, I think, every month. So if you could go on the website and check it out and just find out more, even if you're interested. And there's other ways to get involved. Not everyone's called to be a foster parent, but that is a huge need right now for sure.
And I think it's great that Isaiah 117 House is coming here in Memphis. I know they have locations in other parts of the state. This is the first here in West Tennessee, and they're also based in other states as well. And like you said, the need with so many kids in that foster care system, this is going to be a great bridge for them to be able to have that smoother transition, even though they're dealing with that traumatic experience in itself. I know that there's going to be a kickoff event that's going to be coming up towards the end of the month. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we would love for anyone who's interested in being a part of the Isaiah 117 House. There's so many opportunities to get involved at every level, to come to the kickoff event that we're having this coming Sunday, April 30th. It's at 3 o'clock at Harding Academy. And Rhonda Paulson, the founder and director, is going to be there to be speaking and just sharing the mission and the vision and finding out how to get involved.
And let's talk about where this location is, where y'all are going to be located.
Currently, we don't have a house yet. So after we kick off, once the community once we launch our awareness campaign and a lot of people know that there's a need, then we're looking for land. We're looking for donated houses that we can a lot of the houses have been remodeled. Some of them are new builds on land. And so just asking for people to help connect us. We're actually going to have 2 houses in Shelby County starting out, which is exciting. We definitely want to stay closer to the downtown, midtown area because that's where the DCS office is in 40 South Main. So we'd like to have a closer access to that. So yeah, we'd love any leads that anyone has on that.
Yeah, is there a website that's been set up yet, or where an email address where people can, if they're watching right now, we have thousands of people that watch us on our stream. Is there a way that they can connect with you guys if they say, hey, I want to get involved with this and the work y'all are doing?
Absolutely. We have a Facebook and Instagram account. If you put in Isaiah 117 House, Shelby County, Tennessee, you can find us there, or you can email at shelbytn@isaiah117house.com.
Virginia, this has been a great conversation, and I'm so excited about this. Is there anything else you feel like we missed that you want to make sure we hit on before we let you go?
After we kick off on Sunday, we're going to be having monthly expansion meetings where anyone from the community can come and join our team and help just get this off the ground. We would love help spreading the awareness of our event and just opportunities to help.
Well, Virginia, I really appreciate you joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and good luck with the kickoff event and just all the excitement headed your way over the next couple months with this new venture.
Thank you.
Safety's in the spotlight this week at the University of Memphis after a 19-year-old was arrested and accused of lying to get into a dorm room, slashing a student's face with a knife. Investigators say the incident happened noon Tuesday. Caleb Stewart facing a number of charges. Sign outside the dorm says safety security is the #1 priority on campus. But students who live there say they weren't even notified.
Like, we are literally informed whenever a break-in happens 2 blocks away, but we weren't given the courtesy of knowing that there was a stabbing in our building where we live.
And the suspect's charges including aggravated burglary, aggravated assault, and vandalism. Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy is addressing issues that are affecting the community. He is expected to have, let me see if I can pull this up here. He is expecting to have a town hall series starting today. He wants to hear from the people of Shelby County, different forums, different parts of the county. It's going to be at Impact Baptist Church in Fraser at 5:30. Everybody is welcome to attend this. All right, let's go back to this. It's been a little more than a month since the shooting at Covenant School in Nashville. Nearly $250,000 has been donated towards counseling in those affected. Two Stars are helping. The Fund Recovery set out a goal to take away financial barriers and obstacles. Former NFL star receiver Eric Decker and country music star JT Hodges are ambassadors for the Fund Recovery. Both of them help raise $230,000 towards the cause. They say the message is to talk to somebody. Okay, the Sexual Assault Center and the Fat Bottom Brewery partnered to showcase an exhibit that's in an effort to stop victim blaming in sexual assault cases. Daniel Ledbetter with our sister station in Nashville talked to a sexual assault survivor, says the exhibit can teach and empower.
Alexandra Nelson is a survivor and says by sharing her story, she's free and feels their support.
To look and to see that we're not alone. You know, I think as a survivor, when I started recognizing my story, I was like, wow, I'm the only person this has happened to. And that's not the case at all.
She says in many instances, there was shame and guilt associated with it.
Perpetrators of violence will use blame to shift their shame onto their victims who become survivors.
That leads to victim blaming.
Some people want to just point the finger. They want someone to blame. And the person to blame is the person who is doing the violence. It's never on the victim, no matter what they're wearing, doing, or the environment that they were in.
Nelson says that's the importance of this exhibit. The goal is to shift the focus from what sexual assault victims were wearing to putting an end to sexual assault and violence.
When I went through the exhibit for the first time, to be honest, as a survivor, I was very scared.
Inside the exhibit, you'll see what sexual assault victims were wearing during their event and their personal stories.
I really left it feeling much stronger and much more held than I did going into it.
The exhibit is based on the poem What I Was Wearing by Dr. Mary Simmerling. She writes, if only it were so simple, if only we could end rape by simply changing clothes. And that's the main point the exhibit aims to make.
To come out to this event is to take that power back, because it's not our shame to hold as survivors. The power we have within ourselves to share with others and make that connection with others where it's like, hey, me too, is very powerful, and that provides a lot of healing. It definitely did for me.
Nelson says other sexual assault survivors can find that too. She suggests start by telling one person you trust.
To navigate that these days, it's important to be vocal. And when a victim is able to tell their story and become a survivor and share their truth, and when people believe them and lean in and listen, it empowers them to go forward through life, where that's just a chapter of their story. It's not the entire story.
Okay, let's talk about April being Second Chance Month. And in the U.S., 2 out of 3 people who have been to prison are arrested again, and 50% of them end up back in prison. Let's talk to Brandeis Leverett. He is a program manager for Persevere. It's based out of Tennessee. Brandeis, first tell me, what is Persevere, and tell me what some of the things that you encounter each and every day there. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Yes, Persevere is a national nonprofit. We actually operate out of 6 states, and we're looking to move into more states, but our biggest footprint is right here in Tennessee. So yes, we work with individuals who we like to call have been justice impacted or justice involved. And yes, we will teach coding and software development. Our participants have an opportunity within 6 months to a year to become certified full stack web developers. All of our programs are absolutely free. They come along with the equipment that's necessary. We offer wraparound services. We have support for transportation. Here in West Tennessee, we actually have transitional housing. So for individuals who we begin working with within the prison walls, once they're on a process of release, we have options and opportunities to continue to serve and help them make a better life for themselves, developing those skills to code.
That's fantastic. I understand you guys have only been around just a few short years since 2019. You're already in 6 states. I mean, it's growing pretty substantially at a really fast pace. I remember we talked to Stacy last time around. Tell me how you got involved.
Yeah, so yes, we're in 6 states, and since 2019, we've served about 800 participants. And then for me personally, I have a history and a career in education. And I tell people all the time, I was impacted on the other side of the wall. My father spent time in prison, and I watched the process of him being released and the struggle that he had to find gainful employment. So when this opportunity came, it was a no-brainer for me to jump on board the Persevere team. And I've really enjoyed the work that we do here.
You mentioned West Tennessee. It is significant in terms of where you are and helping people and how popular this program is. Can you just tell me a little more details of some of the outreach that you're doing in the West Tennessee, Memphis area?
Yeah, here in West Tennessee, again, we have our 2 programs. One is called Tech Alliance, and another one is called Families First. Tech Alliance actually serves the entire state. And then our Families First program, which is supported by the Department of Human Services, serves West Tennessee and all of its counties here in West Tennessee. And that program in particular not only works with adults, but it also works with students. It also works with young people between the ages of 9 and 18. Again, those services are provided for free. We offer career readiness, life skills support, and we have certified mental health counselors on staff who support the work that we do. And then when it comes to partners, we partner with a ton of organizations here in Shelby County and then across the state. So we got Knowledge Quest and Memphis Athletic Ministries, and we also work with the American Job Center almost hand in hand in some of the work that we do. And workforce development boards throughout the state support the work that we do. And of course, I can't help but to mention the Tennessee Department of Corrections.
So April is Second Chance Month. What do you want people, we have thousands of people that watch us on the digital desk here each and every morning. What do you want people to do with that knowledge that April is Second Chance Month?
Yeah, with April being Second Chance Month, and again, so many individuals are impacted by justice in this manner. I think one of the major things we want to do is we want to kind of beat back the stigmatism that comes along with that. When you get a chance to learn the stories of the individuals that have been justice impacted or justice involved, you can learn that, literally they made a bad choice at one moment in their life. And we believe that that shouldn't be a death sentence. That shouldn't keep them from opportunity after serving time and serving whatever that time, that should be, a barrier for the entire of their lives. We don't believe that should be the case. So in doing that, we also want continue to work with different partners. One of the things I didn't mention, but we have what we call technology employment specialists who go out and they work with employers to get employers involved in the process of what we're doing, to commit to say, hey, we're going to take on some of your graduates and participants to give them a chance. So that's ultimately what we would love for individuals to do, is to give individuals who've been justice impacted and justice involved a chance.
This morning we talked about how crime is way up in Memphis and Shelby County this year already. A lot of it's juvenile crime. When you see stats like that, I know that I believe your organization helps juveniles. What happens with your kind of organization when there is an uptick in crime and there's a lot of juvenile crime? Is there any, I know you guys are focused on Second Chance, but is there any other kind of outreach or anything else that you guys deal with when it comes to this big spike in crime we're having, specifically juveniles?
Absolutely. There's a branch in belief in what we do about First Chance, right? To help individuals who have not yet been justice involved, but may be in environments in which that is all too common. So yes, we work with organizations throughout the county and state to offer young people an opportunity to be exposed to coding, to game development. We work with the individuals, a partner of ours is Epic Games. Those are the folks who are responsible for creating games like Fortnite. So we're able to work with them and introduce game development to our young people. Because again, for young people, it's about scratching that interest, beyond just traditional academics and education. And I think one of the biggest things that's really important, again, is that we can work with the entire family, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and then young people within those families can come together and find a common knowledge and even a common language through coding and game development. So those are things that we do.
Where can people go for more information, Brandeis?
Yeah, so our website is perseverenow.org, or just go to Google and type in Persevere and you will find us. And then this week, in honor of Second Chance Month, we're working with the individuals at Center for Employment Opportunities, and we're going to have a resource fair with tons of employers right here in the city who are going to be at the Lester Community Center on Saturday morning, starting at 10 a.m. And we will have that resource fair there. There are going to be a ton of organizations and employers that are ready to interview and give people a chance.
Okay, Brandeis Leverett with Persevere. We really appreciate your time. Good luck with everything this month, throughout the year, and God bless you guys. You guys are doing some amazing work. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, are you among the millions of Americans looking to buy your next home this year? Perhaps you're looking at the higher interest rates, maybe questioning whether or not you should buy, even if it's possible in our current market. All kinds of trends. Maybe you want to find the right home right now. Maybe you want to wait. Let's talk about the state of real estate and the latest housing numbers and perhaps a little bit of advice right now. Let's talk to RE/MAX President, CEO Nick Bailey. He joins us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Good morning, Nick. Let's talk about the latest housing market trends that you're seeing. How are you?
I'm great, Andrew. Thanks for having me. Well, I can say the spring market is here and it has some bright spots. We're off to a good start. For example, on average, home sales are up just over 30% from February to March, which is a big number. However, there are a few other things that are happening that I think is important for buyers and sellers to know. Is even though the spring market's off to a good start, inventories are still fairly tight. And even though inventory levels have come up, you look at in the Memphis area, just over 47%, they're still fairly low. And that's what's keeping prices where they are. Prices in your area have only in the last year come down around 1%, so they're holding fairly steady. But for buyers, there's something that's even more important happening that's helping them, which is they're not competing against as many buyers right now, and houses are actually selling for around 1% under the ask price, which is vastly different than a year ago when buyers were competing against multiple people and most houses were selling well over their asking price. And so that all combined right now is good news for buyers.
With higher interest rates, especially higher than last year, Nick, what do buyers need to know in order to get into the right house?
Well, interest rates have definitely been at the center of the conversation over the past many months. And so I think the most important thing for buyers to realize is that having a good lender, shopping your rate, and more importantly, looking at maybe mortgage products that are not just the 30-year fixed rate. Everyone has only been talking about the 30-year fixed because it was so low. But the reality is right now, there are lower interest rate products available for buyers. Things like adjustable rate mortgages. There are interest rate buy down opportunities. First-time home buyer programs that have lower rates. All in all, we kind of have a saying that comes into this market, which is buyers need to marry the house and date the rate. Find the right house for you and make sure you've got the right down payment, but you can always refinance. Shall more favorable rates be in our future?
So, Nick, we have thousands of people that watch us here on the Digital Desk. What would you say if there were like bullet points for those, prospective home buyers out there? If there were 3 bullet points you could give them this morning when it comes to looking for that perfect house, what would it be?
Number 1, have a great agent, because a really experienced, good agent that knows the specifics of the market today can help you navigate the space. And let's face it, buying or selling a home is a complex process and makes people nervous. And having a good, trusted advisor that knows how to navigate the market can make all the difference in the world. Number 2, for a buyer, get pre-qualified. Get with your lender and make sure you understand what you can afford with the interest rates, what they are today, so that it can ease your home shopping experience and you will know what price range to match your needs. And I think the third piece is, as a buyer, don't take yourself out of the market just because interest rates have gone up. There are ways to become a buyer today when you've got the right agent and lender on your side, looking at all the options that are available.
Great stuff there. So we've talked about the buyer's market. Let's talk about the seller's market here. Let's say you want to sell in this market, cash out of your house. What do you tell those sellers out there?
So sellers, make sure you get real on your price. Even though your prices are holding fairly steady, we're not seeing that crazy double-digit price appreciation that we did a year or 2 ago. And so when you've got your home priced right, you're actually set up to sell at the best possible price. Versus the biggest mistake sellers can make is, oh, well, let's try it higher than the market and we can always come down. On average, you end up selling for anywhere from 5 to 8% less than market value when you do that. So avoid that mistake. And then the second thing I would tell sellers is, because homes are staying on the market just a little bit longer, that means that buyers have a chance to look at more homes. And so you might have to do some slight home improvements, have your house staged properly, get it in show condition, because a house that's priced right and looks good is absolutely the best formula to sell it in the least amount of time for the most amount of money.
We've talked about a lot here, Nick. Can viewers get some of this information online anywhere?
Absolutely. Go to remax.com, whether you're a buyer or a seller. Great information to help you navigate the process.
Okay, President and CEO of RE/MAX, Nick Bailey, giving us some great tips and suggestions and ways for both buyers and sellers to be successful this year. I appreciate the time, Nick. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Hey, I'm First Alert meteorologist Sergey Galindo. A couple of spotty showers as we go through the morning hours. By this afternoon and evening, we'll see more rain and even some storms filling in. You can see we're under a low threat for severe weather. It's a category 1 out of 5. Most of the energy with this system is going to be right along the coast, but we can't rule out that any storms that do develop on the stronger side could produce some gusty wind and hail, and definitely the potential for some heavy rainfall. That's going to be the highest, a 7 out of 10, wind 4 out of 10, and hail on the lower side, a 2 out of 10. We'll watch this closely. Here is the reason why. We're tracking an area of low pressure and a cold front that's going to be moving toward the east. That will bring that potential for some isolated storms as well as some rain. So as we go through time, again, just a spotty shower or 2 as we go through the lunch hour. Right around noon, most of those showers will be off to the north, Blytheville, Brownsville, potentially seeing some of that. I think we'll see a break, a nice dry slot, and that could allow some breaks in those clouds. Now, those breaks could mean that the atmosphere could become more unstable with those temperatures heating up. So the more cloudy we say, the less likely we'll see storms. The more sunshine we see, the more likely we could see some isolated strong storms. So right around 5 o'clock, this particular model does show some breaks in those clouds, which could mean, again, some isolated to scattered showers and storms, which you see right around 7 o'clock starting to approach the area. Some of it, again, could be in the form of some very heavy rain at 8 o'clock. Could be tracking some heavy rain and storms in eastern Arkansas, Wichita and North Mississippi. That starts to push west of the Mississippi River, east of the Mississippi River rather, into the metro, Memphis and Shelby County. Right around 9 o'clock, I think you could be seeing some heavy rain by then. That heavy rain threat will expand more into West Tennessee and North Mississippi as we head around 9, 10 o'clock. And then by 11, it really starts to lose its punch when it comes to that system. It starts to weaken as it moves off toward the east. So we'll just be left with a few showers right around midnight, and we'll dry out after that. Rainfall totals, they're going to vary, but it'll be anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, really depending upon location and where we get in on some of that heavy rainfall from some of those potential storms. Here's a look at the temperatures for today, starting off in the 50s, but climbing into the upper 60s this afternoon. Scattered showers and storms starting at 3 o'clock, lasting into tonight. 57 degrees is where we'll fall tonight. Rain and storms mainly before midnight, and those winds out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's a look at your forecast for tomorrow. It's going to be dry. We are going to be left with some clouds, though. Temperatures in the low 70s. I think we'll see increasingly more sunshine as we get into the afternoon. Northwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Let's talk about where we go from there. For your weekend, it's actually coming in a bit drier. 20% chance for some showers on Saturday, but Sunday I think will be rain-free and even into your Monday. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast. You can see those temperatures. They're going to remain pretty steady for most of the week. Not until Wednesday will we really head right around our average, which is 75. But today 69 degrees, 71 on Friday. Again, there is that small chance for a couple of showers on Saturday, and it looks like the timing now will put most of that in the morning, but we'll watch it for any changes. By Sunday, 70 degrees under partly cloudy skies, and then Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday, we are looking at just a lot of sunshine and dry conditions.
Okay, have you planned everything out for the summer? Because so many people have, and guess what? The numbers are showing that international travel bookings right now are up some 200%, more than 200%. It's a crazy number. People not only want to travel, they want to go international. They want to see the world. Let's bring in Megan Cooper with AAA to talk more about this number. An extraordinary number, but I have to say, Megan, my family and I this past spring break, we went to Costa Rica, and it was fabulous. Our producer, Amanda Hansen's got an amazing honeymoon plan internationally. I mean, I can totally get it. People are just ready to go. What are some of the reasons?
So people are more comfortable with traveling. We've seen that trend over the last couple of years, but people are ready to go. They're ready to get out and see new places. And, we're seeing that reflected in our travel bookings. So we're up 200% on international travel bookings compared to last year. The biggest increase we've seen is in hotel bookings. That's up over 300% compared to last year. So people are comfortable, they want to get out, and they just want to see the world.
I totally get it. That is so true in the people that I interact with a lot. So let's talk about, I guess, a priority list. What are some of the guidelines, since we probably know, with thousands of people watching us right now, we are either going international or we know a friend that's going international. What are the ways to really kind of set that list, that checklist for everybody?
Right. So one of the first things that you want to do is prioritize your passport. So if you have a trip planned or you're thinking about traveling internationally and you either don't have a passport or your passport is close to expiring, go ahead and get that taken care of as soon as possible. We are seeing a little bit of a longer wait time on some of those passports. In some cases, maybe 7 to 9 weeks. And you need this to travel internationally. So first things first, if you don't have your passport taken care of and secured away, go ahead and do that right now.
Very cool. What about when it comes to packing and, my biggest fear was that, okay, our flight's going to get canceled and we're going to be, up a creek, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right. So unfortunately, lost luggage, delayed flights, those are all things that we have to navigate now. and always have when we're traveling. So if you're traveling with other people, with a family, with a spouse, with a friend, when you're packing, maybe try to spread clothing and those items that you think that you're going to need across multiple suitcases. That way you don't have one person that has absolutely nothing while another suitcase might have made it, and one person has, everything that they need. When I personally travel, I try to keep everything in a carry-on and try not to check baggage. So if at all possible, if you don't have to check that baggage, maybe try to fit everything into a carry-on. If you are checking that baggage, maybe just go ahead and put some extra identification in there. So maybe take out a big sheet of paper and write your information on it, just in case that luggage tag is lost or something happens. You want a way to get that luggage back to you if it is lost or misplaced.
You are a rarity, Megan. The women in my family, they all have to check luggage. Like I've even mentioned that. Like, hey, why don't we carry on? It'll make it better. They're like, no, what are you, crazy? We have to check luggage. So hats off to you. I'm even more impressed by you with that response.
It's taken years of practice, I will say.
I bet. That's the other fear, though, that the luggage is going to get lost. I mean, is there any way, obviously, carry on is the best way. Is there any other way to maybe mark your luggage to make sure that it doesn't get lost? Or is there something else that people can do?
Just make sure that you're checking that baggage early. Make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time to check it in. Be mindful of how you're planning your flights. So if at all possible, try to book those early morning flights. Those have a less likelihood of being delayed. And then take a look at what destinations you're traveling through. Is it a nonstop flight? Obviously, with a nonstop flight, that's less places that your baggage has to go. So limit those in between destinations. And if at all possible, if you can't avoid those, give yourself plenty of time at those different stops. And sometimes we just can't avoid losing our luggage. Sometimes the inevitable happens, and you're that unlucky person. So that is one instance where travel insurance can really come in handy. And travel insurance does cover some of those costs of delayed flights as well as lost baggage fees.
Help me maneuver travel insurance for a second here, because I know travel insurance is a big question mark for a lot of people when they travel internationally. There's a train of thought that says, well, the travel insurance doesn't cover certain issues that are more likely to happen, so why even get it? And then there's another one that says, no, you need to get travel insurance and get the highest amount, or maybe you should get it for just specific things. Tell me where you stand, where AAA stands when it comes to travel insurance.
So with travel insurance, we always advise for people to purchase this, especially if you're traveling internationally. You're likely spending a lot of money. So we want you to protect that investment. If anything happens, if you get sick, if you can't go on that vacation, if something happens while you're on that vacation, we want you to be able to get that investment back if you at all possibly can. So with travel insurance, there are different options. So depending on what you're booking, how you're traveling, it really can be beneficial. So with those different types of travel insurance, of course, some things are covered, some things are not covered. And I think it ultimately comes down to that personal choice and how comfortable with risk that you are. But just personally, and from AAA, if you're making that investment and traveling, you really want to protect that so you're not losing out on money if something were to happen on that trip. And that's also where a travel advisor comes in very handy, because they can explain to you, what travel insurance would look like for your trip, how much you need, what that would cost. And a lot of times it's really not that expensive to add on that travel insurance policy to your trip.
Good deal. I appreciate you explaining that. Anything else you want to mention that you feel is important for some of the people, some of our viewers, thousands of which join us each and every morning, when they're traveling internationally?
I think the biggest thing this year is planning ahead. We're expecting things to be very busy. I've already heard reports this morning that we're expecting things to get even busier this summer. So if you haven't booked that international travel yet, go ahead and do that as soon as possible, especially if you're traveling this summer. But planning ahead, flexibility is key. If you are in the early planning phases of, planning an international trip, some of those ways that you can save money are being flexible, maybe, traveling in the off season, maybe traveling during the week versus on the weekend. But the biggest thing I think for travelers this year is start to plan early and book that trip early. With the demand and the interest that we've seen so far this year, that's likely to continue throughout the rest of the year. So that sweet spot of getting the trip that you want at the price that you want really is going to come from planning ahead and booking early.
Megan Cooper, who only carries on her luggage on those international flights. Megan, I really appreciate you and all that you do for us here at the Digital Desk, informing our public about the do's and don'ts when it comes to so many different things, including international travel. Thanks very much. Okay, Memphis police have responded to a prowler call that led to an officer firing shots. This happened earlier this morning, just a few hours ago, near the University of Memphis, near Southern Avenue. That's where we find Action News 5, Cindy Hawkins there live with an update for us. Cindy, I know you've been there for several hours. What's the latest behind you?
Hey, good morning to you, Andrew. As you can see, this investigation is still underway as that suspect still remains at large. Memphis police say they believe that person or the person was last seen driving a black Infiniti SUV. Over here, we're on Southern Avenue, the 3200 block of Southern. Again, that suspect still at large. This call came in around 4:30 this morning, and they say they got a call about a prowler situation near the apartments of Southern Manor and Southern Place, again on Southern Avenue. As officers approached that suspect, they say the suspect tried to run those officers over with the car that the suspect was driving. That's again that black Infiniti SUV. The suspect then hit a squad car. Officers again trying to detain this person, and one officer ended up being injured after falling. Again, that suspect is still at large, and that is the latest information coming again from Memphis police.
Have you talked to many people who have come out of that apartment? Are there people? I know you've been there for a while. Have they? Is it near? I know it's near the University of Memphis campus. Is it off-campus housing? I mean, are we seeing a lot of students? What can you tell us?
Yeah, we know this is off-campus housing, not affiliated with the University of Memphis at all. Everyone that I've seen coming out of this apartment, or people that I've seen near it, I do want to point out that I have not seen anyone come out of the apartment complex. As you can see, that crime tape is blocking off the exit where people would drive out of the apartment complex. So we got here around 6:30 this morning. I have not seen anyone leave this apartment complex nor the one next door. You can actually see, if I can get my camera to turn that way, you can see a lady hanging out in her window, just kind of watching as this all unfolds. We have spoken to some people across the street. There's a neighborhood across the street who have been able to drive in and out and say it's an unbelievable situation. A man that we spoke to says he actually heard the shots that Memphis police said that they fired at that suspect. He heard the car crash, and he said, again, it was just an unbelievable situation.
So just to go back to what you were telling us, investigators say that this person was trying to run over a police officer. And how did that person escape? Did they just leave the SUV there and just run?
That information I am not aware of. Memphis police only releasing preliminary information, as they always do. According to their last update, that suspect is still believed to be in that black Infiniti SUV, and that's the vehicle that was used to reportedly crash into officers as well.
Okay, and so the officer is fine, I presume, and we don't know anything about the suspect's condition, do we?
Right, no, not as of now.
Okay, and just to give us a clarification, how far are you from the campus? I know you're off of, you're close to Southern Avenue too, right? I see the train tracks.
Yeah, we're about a mile away from the University of Memphis campus. So again, not affiliated with the U of M. These apartments are privately owned. They're not student housing. Everyone that I've seen near the apartment complex seem to be adults and not students. So again, not affiliated with the University of Memphis.
All right, Cindy Hawkins, really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for the update. We'll look for more updates from you later today on Action News 5. Appreciate it.
Hey, I'm First Alert meteorologist Sergey Galindo. A couple of spotty showers as we go through the morning hours. By this afternoon and evening, we'll see more rain and even some storms filling in. You can see we're under a low threat for severe weather. It's a category 1 out of 5. Most of the energy with this system is going to be right along the coast, but we can't rule out that any storms that do develop on the stronger side could produce some gusty wind and hail, and definitely the potential for some heavy rainfall. That's going to be the highest, a 7 out of 10, wind 4 out of 10. And hail on the lower side, a 2 out of 10. We'll watch this closely. Here is the reason why. We're tracking an area of low pressure and a cold front that's going to be moving toward the east. That will bring that potential for some isolated storms as well as some rain. So as we go through time, again, just a spotty shower or two as we go through the lunch hour. Right around noon, most of those showers will be off to the north, Blytheville, Brownsville, potentially seeing some of that. I think we'll see a break, a nice dry slot, and that could allow some breaks in those clouds. Now, those breaks could mean that the atmosphere could become more unstable with those temperatures heating up. So the more cloudy we say, the less likely we'll see storms. The more sunshine we see, the more likely we could see some isolated strong storms. So right around 5 o'clock, this particular model does show some breaks in those clouds, which could mean, again, some isolated to scattered showers and storms, which you see right around 7 o'clock starting to approach the area. Some of it, again, could be in the form of some very heavy rain at 8 o'clock. Could be tracking some heavy rain and storms in eastern Arkansas in North Mississippi. That starts to push west of the Mississippi River, east of the Mississippi River rather, into the metro, Memphis and Shelby County. Right around 9 o'clock, I think you could be seeing some heavy rain by then. That heavy rain threat will expand more into West Tennessee and North Mississippi as we head around 9, 10 o'clock. And then by 11, it really starts to lose its punch when it comes to that system. It starts to weaken as it moves off toward the east. So we'll just be left with a few showers right around midnight, and we'll dry out after that. Rainfall totals, they're going to vary, but it'll be anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, really depending upon location and where we get in on some of that heavy rainfall from some of those potential storms. Here's a look at the temperatures for today, starting off in the 50s, but climbing into the upper 60s this afternoon. Scattered showers and storms starting at 3 o'clock, lasting into tonight. 57 degrees is where we'll fall tonight. Rain and storms mainly before midnight, and those winds out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's a look at your forecast for tomorrow. It's going to be dry. We are going to be left with some clouds, though. Temperatures in the low 70s. I think we'll see increasingly more sunshine as we get into the afternoon. Northwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Let's talk about where we go from there. For your weekend, it's actually coming in a bit drier. 20% chance for some showers on Saturday, but Sunday I think will be rain-free and even into your Monday. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast. You can see those temperatures. They're going to remain pretty steady for most of the week. Not until Wednesday will we really head right around our average, which is 75. But today 69 degrees, 71 on Friday. Again, there is that small chance for a couple of showers on Saturday, and it looks like the timing now will put most of that in the morning, but we'll watch it for any changes. By Sunday, 70 degrees under partly cloudy skies, and then Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday, we are looking at just a lot of sunshine and dry conditions.
All right, we have some breaking news here on the Action News 5 digital desk. If you go to actionnews5.com, you will see this story here. Jerry Springer, the talk show host, former Cincinnati mayor, dead at 79. Not much in terms of information being released at this time, including a cause, but we wanted to get that out to you. It is breaking news on our website and certainly across the country there. That former Cincinnati mayor, Jerry Springer, talk show host, well known for, he has died today at the age of 79. Tennessee Titans getting a new stadium after a voting session that stretched past midnight Wednesday. The stadium's funding was approved. It includes $670 million in City of Nashville bonds from a hotel tax and then $500 million from the state of Tennessee. That gives the Titans over $1 billion going towards the stadium, the largest public price tag for any NFL stadium ever, according to ESPN. Grizzlies are still in it. They scored a major victory with a game-changing final score, 116-99. It was a 17-point win there. Desmond Bane, as you see, he led the team efforts. He had 33 points. John Morant wasn't far behind. He had 31. Together, they combined for 64 points, 20 boards, 12 assists. They are the first pair of teammates in franchise history to record 30-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, 5-plus assists in a playoff game. It was certainly welcome news after that heartbreaking loss that happened Monday night in overtime out in Los Angeles.
Definitely something we needed, to get a win, and something, Coach challenged us to do was, for us to rebound. So that's good.
The mentality coming out of Game 4, as disappointing as a loss that was, these guys got a lot of fight in them. They got a lot of resolve in them. The moment they walked in the building today, I could see the look in their eyes. But then when I really challenged them and the entire group, there was just this kind of like stoic, poise about them. They knew they received the message well. They knew they were going to go out there and execute it. And we had to have their best. And I'm going to continue to tell them, don't be satisfied because this wasn't our best. We got to continue to search for our best.
Okay, so the next game is set for tomorrow night. It is going to be in Los Angeles. The tip-off is a late one. Tip-off is at 9:30. Also, by the way, wanted to let you know that we have the radio voice of the Grizzlies on the digital desk 10:30 this morning. We will talk to him live about the game last night, the excitement there, and looking ahead to Game 6. Okay, the Memphis Showboats 0-2 in regular play. The team is still very much hungry for a win. With experienced coaches on the team, a win is certainly feasible. We spoke with the defensive coordinator about what it'll take to get a victory. Take a look.
Well, obviously, we'd like a win. We're still searching for our first win. We are working very hard to try to get that win, and we're facing some stiff challengers right now, and we got to find a way.
For defensive coordinator Carnell Lake, football has always been a focal point of his life. After a long, successful NFL career as both a player and coach, he's now searching for a win with the Memphis Showboats.
Right now, my only focus is to make sure that the defense can play as best as they can.
Coach Lake, a former Pro Bowl defensive back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, described his coaching style as teacherly.
Giving them a big picture to start and then telling them what their individual assignments are and how they fit in. Everybody has an assignment. We have to make sure that each and every player does their assignment and does it well. Most defenses that are successful all have a defense that works cohesively, and that's what we're trying to strive for.
While Coach Lake is most notable for his NFL career, leading the Showboats to their first W of the season is top of mind.
I would be doing a disservice to the guys in Memphis, to the players in Memphis right now if I'm thinking about the next opportunity. Right now, my only focus is to make sure that the defense can play as best as they can.
In Memphis, Taylor Tucker, Action News 5.
All right, so the Showboats will face the Houston Gamblers Saturday night, 6 o'clock, Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, and we will be rooting on Memphis for a win, definitely. All right, after 2 decades at the Memphis Zoo, giant panda Yaya has left for China. Zoo workers say she began her journey Wednesday, accompanied by the senior veterinarian at the Memphis Zoo and also the chief zoological officer. She spent 20 years in Memphis at the zoo, along with Lolo, died earlier this year. The zoo announced that the pandas would be sent back to China as the part of their loan agreement. The zoo's vet and chief zoological officer traveled with the panda to manage any travel emergencies. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's a challenging time to be a teen or a preteen for sure. I mean, it was 10, 20, 30 years ago, but even more so now in the advent of technology and social media. In fact, data released by the CDC's Youth Behavioral Survey shows that between 2011 and 2021, the percentage of high school students who felt persistently sad or hopeless increased. Now, parents and caregivers certainly play an important role in supporting their kids' emotional well-being. Let's bring in now to talk more about this Dr. Coraline Griffith Hunt and maybe some ways that we can help be a part of the solution to mental health and have that awareness out there. Doctor, what are some of the issues that you're seeing right now when it comes to mental health these days with teens and preteens? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. One of the problems that we are seeing is our teens don't know how to express their feelings. And so that's why now that we have this wonderful mental health acknowledgement in May, that we can start to have this conversation, start to help them to be comfortable in identifying their emotions. And a lot of the teens are saying, hey, we're feeling overwhelmed. We're feeling as though we don't know where to place our feelings. We're sad, we're depressed. How do I identify what I'm going through? We're seeing memory loss. We're seeing inability of our children to be able to concentrate and identify where to go to for the help.
Okay, that's interesting because it just seems like it's more of a problem, and I guess when it comes to the pandemic, and it's been a theme, you know, the pandemic has certainly impacted so much of our lives in so many different facets. Can you talk about how it's had an impact on youth mental health?
Absolutely. So our youth are experiencing various moods and emotions, and they don't know how to identify them. And so they're basically feeling overwhelmed. And with that, we're seeing frequent illness from our youth. We're seeing chest pains more frequently in the hospitals, crying out for aches and pains in the body. And so, let's really talk about it. The COVID-19 came and brought what we call collective trauma. And collective trauma is a trauma that we all experience together, right? As a society. And so we think of the ACEs and how that plays a toll in how our young people, the various adverse childhood experiences, adverse community environments where our young people are raised. And so that's why it's so important, even for the Ad Council, to come up with these resources and tools where parents and caregivers can have the opportunity to engage in meaningful, wholesome conversation so that our young people know they're not alone. We experience it as well. And it's important that we acknowledge their emotional well-being because it's just as important as their physical well-being.
We have thousands of people that watch us, Doctor, each and every morning here on the Action News 5 digital desk. If there are some parents out there or caregivers that are watching, what would be maybe like some bullet points to just kind of say, here's where you should start when it comes to bettering the mental health of your child?
Start checking in. Check in throughout the day, check in throughout the week. Start having those conversations, parents and caregivers. I know I'm a mom of 4, and at times they may not want to talk to you. They may not want to have the conversation, but be persistent. Check in on them. Start expressing how you're feeling. Model the behavior that you want to see. So you start initiating conversation and the tools that are there from the Ad Council. We have, conversation starter tools, there are manuals, and there's a tool even that talks about music, where we can talk about how we are feeling through music. And if you feel that there's a crisis going on, we have the national 988 number, where professionals are there to help guide you through the process. And so I say to you, be encouraged, but start having conversation. Relational connectiveness and engagement will bring healing to our families. And you're not alone. And young people need to know that they're not alone as well.
What about after that conversation? Is there something that we can do? I have older teens, and I just remember their middle school years were very, very challenging. Is there anything that you would tell maybe the parent or how about this, just the middle schooler or the high schooler that's watching this, what they can do? I mean, limits on phones, limits on social media. I mean, that's got to be a great place, I would think, to start.
Absolutely. You know, technology is wonderful. We all use it. We're using it right now. But the influx of all the different messages and information can become a little bit overwhelming. And so to the young people, the youth that might be watching, I'll say one thing. I know you're going through so many different changes in your life, and you're trying to understand your place in society and your place in the world. But I want you to know that we're here to help guide you. So please find someone that you can trust to talk to, your mom, your dad, caregiver, you know, community. It's about community showing up for you, and we are here for you. Reach out to the members in your school, the administrators, social workers. We're here. Even if you go to your doctor's appointment, mention that you may be feeling a little overwhelmed to your doctor so that, you know, we can give you the help that's needed. You're not isolated, and you don't need to be isolated, and you don't need to feel as though it's only you going through this. We all have experienced various things in life. And when we tap into our emotional wellness, it makes us feel better, and we can't treat or heal what we haven't identified. That's why it's so important that we identify what we're feeling, we acknowledge it, we give voice to it, and we give value to it. And that is what I would say to our youth. We value your voice, we value your experiences, and we want to be there for you.
This has been great, Dr. Griffith Hunt. Anything else? Where can we go to get some information and pass along to our viewers?
Oh, absolutely. SoundItOutTogether.com. Once again, SoundItOutTogether.org. .org. SoundItOutTogether.org. You're going to find free, wonderful tools and resources for families to start this conversation and get that connectedness going. Once again, SoundItOutTogether.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coraline Griffith Hunt. We appreciate your time this morning. Great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Split the screen here so you could see something that was just posted on social media here. This is Facebook, and that is Representative John Gillespie there. He is saying, I'm proud to announce that Governor Bill Lee has signed HB 5 into law. The bill increases penalties for rape and kidnapping, will take effect July 1st. So this is new legislation to increase those penalties. It increases the minimum sentence for rape and expands the requirement to register as a sex offender to anyone convicted of a kidnapping offense rather than just kidnappings involving children. Again, it takes effect July 1st, later this year. Only on 5, a former Mid-South church leader and Christian school administrator in East Memphis has been indicted for sex crimes against a minor. The 32-year-old reportedly groomed a student during the peak of the pandemic using a camera and the internet. Today, John Brownlow is scheduled to face a judge as the case against him serves as a warning to parents everywhere. Action News 5's investigator Jessica Jaglois reports.
The Action News 5 investigators have been watching John Brownlow's case move through a Shelby County courtroom since September. Good morning, Mr. Brownlow. When the 32-year-old former church leader and Christian school administrator pleaded not guilty to 7 felonies and 1 misdemeanor. John Brownlow is accused of persuading a male student to engage in sexual activity over the internet and for more than a year, allegedly recording that activity without the teen's knowledge. Brownlow's attorney, Leslie Ballin.
You pleaded not guilty on his behalf in court. Is your client innocent?
The allegations are indeed shocking. Does it mean it's accurate and true? Not for me to decide.
Who will decide that?
A jury at the end of the day.
Ballin says he's seen the prosecution's evidence, and while he wouldn't go into details, says Brownlow's not guilty plea stands. Ballin does say the evidence he saw lines up with the contents of this 9-page criminal indictment, which states Brownlow allegedly exposed the boy to sexually explicit material, stalked, and spied on him. The alleged crimes occurred between June 2020 and January 2022, while Brownlow was an employee at the Christian K-12 school Westminster Academy on Ridgeway Road. A former bookkeeper at the school, he was promoted to chief financial officer in September 2021, according to this online post announcing the promotion, in which Westminster said Brownlow enjoyed, quote, playing board games and tackling tech projects. At the same time, according to this indictment, Brownlow was using technology to, quote, expose a minor to material containing sexual activity and to directly induce that minor to engage in sexual activity that Brownlow recorded using cameras in the teen's bedroom. The Action News 5 investigators corresponded with the alleged victim's parents via email. They, along with other parents aware of the allegations against Brownlow, trusted him around their children and are concerned there may be more alleged victims who were groomed by Brownlow who have not yet come forward.
We've heard the word grooming quite a bit in the media lately. Who grooms children?
Someone who has access to children. That could be, it could be teachers, it could be coaches, it could be family friends.
Alicia Bunch Vargas is the clinical director at the Sexual Assault Center in Nashville. She says grooming is any behavior done by an adult with the intention to gain a child's trust to do something sexual in nature with the child. According to RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, most sex abuse victims are between 12 and 17 years old.
The way that adolescent brains are working, their development, they're trying to build relationships, establish relationships, and so any age child can be groomed.
Brownlow was the youth leader for St. Patrick Presbyterian Church in Collierville. Their senior minister said Brownlow left the church in 2019 and that when the church learned about the allegations against him at Westminster Academy, it immediately advised any victims to contact police.
In Tennessee, everyone is considered a mandatory reporter. That means if you suspect a child's life is in danger, you're required to report it to local law enforcement or the Department of Children's Services. If you don't, you could be held liable for that child's safety.
But Bunch Vargas says some places, like churches and schools, have a greater responsibility to report.
There is a certain level of responsibility whenever kids are in those environments for the adults in those environments to care for the kids. And part of that means if I hear something, if I see something, if I am aware of something, doing something about it.
Westminster's headmaster wrote in an email that they learned about the allegations when the crimes were reported in January 2022, and they contacted police, fired Brownlow, and banned him from their campus. Meanwhile, Brownlow is out on a $200,000 bond and is not allowed to contact the teen involved in this case. Ballin says Brownlow is working, not with children, but wouldn't say where. While the case continues to move in court, the alleged victim's family tells the investigators they are currently focused on trying to heal. For the investigators, I'm Jessica Jaglois.
Hey, I'm First Alert meteorologist Sergey Galindo. A couple of spotty showers as we go through the morning hours. By this afternoon and evening, we'll see more rain and even some storms filling in. You can see we're under a low threat for severe weather. It's a category 1 out of 5. Most of the energy with this system is going to be right along the coast, but we can't rule out that any storms that do develop on the stronger side could produce some gusty wind and hail, and definitely the potential for some heavy rainfall. That's going to be the highest, a 7 out of 10, wind 4 out of 10. And hail on the lower side, a 2 out of 10. We'll watch this closely. Here is the reason why. We're tracking an area of low pressure and a cold front that's going to be moving toward the east. That will bring that potential for some isolated storms as well as some rain. So as we go through time, again, just a spotty shower or two as we go through the lunch hour. Right around noon, most of those showers will be off to the north, Blytheville, Brownsville, potentially seeing some of that. I think we'll see a break, a nice dry slot, and that could allow some breaks in those clouds. Now, those breaks could mean that the atmosphere could become more unstable with those temperatures heating up. So the more cloudy we say, the less likely we'll see storms. The more sunshine we see, the more likely we could see some isolated strong storms. So right around 5 o'clock, this particular model does show some breaks in those clouds, which could mean, again, some isolated to scattered showers and storms, which you see right around 7 o'clock starting to approach the area. Some of it, again, could be in the form of some very heavy rain at 8 o'clock. Could be tracking some heavy rain and storms in eastern Arkansas, Wichita and North Mississippi. That starts to push west of the Mississippi River, east of the Mississippi River rather, into the metro, Memphis and Shelby County, right around 9 o'clock. I think you could be seeing some heavy rain by then. That heavy rain threat will expand more into West Tennessee and North Mississippi as we head around 9, 10 o'clock. And then by 11, it really starts to lose its punch when it comes to that system. It starts to weaken as it moves off toward the east. So we'll just be left with a few showers right around midnight, and we'll dry out after that. Rainfall totals, they're going to vary, but it'll be anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, really depending upon location and where we get in on some of that heavy rainfall from some of those potential storms. Here's a look at the temperatures for today, starting off in the 50s, but climbing into the upper 60s this afternoon. Scattered showers and storms starting at 3 o'clock, lasting into tonight. 57 degrees is where we'll fall tonight. Rain and storms mainly before midnight, and those winds out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's a look at your forecast for tomorrow. It's going to be dry. We are going to be left with some clouds, though. Temperatures in the low 70s. I think we'll see increasingly more sunshine as we get into the afternoon. Northwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Let's talk about where we go from there. For your weekend, it's actually coming in a bit drier. 20% chance for some showers on Saturday, but Sunday I think will be rain-free and even into your Monday. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast. You can see those temperatures. They're going to remain pretty steady for most of the week. Not until Wednesday will we really head right around our average, which is 75. But today 69 degrees, 71 on Friday. Again, there is that small chance for a couple of showers on Saturday, and it looks like the timing now will put most of that in the morning, but we'll watch it for any changes. By Sunday, 70 degrees under partly cloudy skies, and then Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday, we are looking at just a lot of sunshine and dry conditions.
All right, college AP exams start May 1st. Do you remember taking those AP exams? You know, they really do matter. You know, a lot of people say, they don't matter. No, they do. And it's a big deal, and it's something that we should talk about with our friend David Blobom joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Now, we knew David way back when, but he has gone national now. He's a recognized expert in the entrance exam, college admission industries, the director of outreach for the National Test Prep Association. David, welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. How are you?
Thanks. Doing great. It's great to be here. And actually, Angela's segment also applies to high school students, so they definitely need to check their social media as well.
Oh, yeah, Angela's fantastic, and I agree with you. Yeah, you can apply that in so many different ways. But, you know, the AP exams, they start May 1st. So I've had kids that are dealing with that, and they've dealt with that in the past. What do you tell people? Because a lot of people go, well, they don't matter, but they really do, don't they?
Yes, so they matter in some ways that students don't think about because they're in high school and it matters for college. So there's 3 main ways that AP exams help students. So if you can get AP credit in college, then you can take fewer courses in college and have an easier time, or you can potentially graduate early and save money, or you can get rid of those core requirements early and then take more advanced classes in your interests. The less important usage of them is for admissions and actually getting accepted to the schools. It's really only the top schools that look at AP exam scores like that, but that's a consideration as well. And students just need to keep in mind, they're like any other test. Preparation is key, but they can succeed.
That is a great breakdown of why it's so important. I mean, various reasons here. Fewer courses, get to graduate early, maybe an opportunity to take some other advanced courses. No, that's great. That's great. What do parents need to know when it comes to studying for these exams? I know that the studying can be overwhelming at times for some students.
Yeah, so the best way to do that prep is hopefully they're doing it in school, but students should be taking released AP exams and seeing how they're doing on those released exams. And then, you know, if it's AP chemistry, seeing what topics did they miss, and then just making sure that they go to their teacher at school, or they learn those topics on their own, or they enlist the help of a good tutor who will actually help them learn those topics.
Fantastic. You know, I always enjoyed our conversations early on, David, when we talked about the SAT and the ACT, because there's so much emphasis on that, although there have been some colleges that have kind of excluded that in their admissions process, or so they say. You know, I've asked this question before, but I think it's an important question to ask again. When it comes to your students who are getting ready for college admissions, should they take the SAT or the ACT? Which one should they take, and why should they take it?
Yeah, so there has been a lot of confusion about it. And there are some schools that are test blind, meaning they won't even look at your SAT, ACT results, even if you send them. But that's only 6% of schools in the country. 88% of schools in the country are what's called test optional, which means they're inviting you to send your SAT and ACT scores because they still care about SAT and ACT scores. And so good scores will always help a student's chances of admission, more merit aid, and scholarships. So the tests really are still advantageous, and students should take a practice exam or potentially the real exam of either, because you can pick and choose which test dates you want to send into colleges. So there's no downside to taking the real test. But once you figure out which test is the best for you, you can just keep taking that until you hit your score goal. You want to finish by November 1st of your senior year, because that's when early application deadlines for early decision and early action deadlines are for most colleges. So for the SAT, students can still take the May, June, August, and October SATs. For the ACT, they can still take the June, July, September, and October tests. So plenty of opportunities.
Should students go into it with a goal? I know with my kids, and they're past this process now. We had a goal that, okay, 30 on the ACT. That was our goal. If you can get 30 or above, you know, we will reward you with a financial stipend. But is that a good idea? I mean, I guess you really got to know your child and what motivates them to do well, right?
So that's a fantastic idea. And there's two ways to break that down. You can look up the schools that you're applying to, and a lot of them will just have a chart of, if you get this score and have this GPA, which the GPA limits are much easier to hit. So basically, if you hit this SAT or ACT score, we're going to give you this much money per year, maybe $10,000, $15,000. So definitely look up on the school's websites, can I get money for a certain score? So that's for getting money. Then there's the admissions piece. And as far as setting a score goal for an admissions piece, I would look up all those schools again and look up their median SAT and ACT score. You want your SAT and ACT score to hit that or be above that for your scores to actually help you in admissions.
Let me ask you this. One of the last conversations we had, David, was about ChatGPT. And it's so interesting because right after we had that conversation, I saw it everywhere. Like everyone was talking about ChatGPT. So I like to say we're on the cutting edge here on the digital desk with you. How has that changed the test, if it has at all?
So speaking of the cutting edge, the last time we talked about it, it was version 3. Now, version 4 just came out a few weeks ago. It's changed everything again. And I should preface this with, I'm not encouraging students to do this because they shouldn't be doing this. But what students are doing now that version 4 is out is version 4 can almost perfectly copy the writing style of any writing that you put into it. So what students are doing is they're taking the essays of students who have been admitted to top colleges. They're inputting those essays and then saying, write my application essay in that style. And Johns Hopkins, for instance, on their website, which they should really remove, there's over 40 essays that worked. And so students can literally just put, I tried it out, and they can just put that into ChatGPT, say, write this essay for me, and in under a minute, they will get a top 1% essay. So if colleges don't adapt, they're really in trouble. They really need to do either proctored essays or interviews or do something to guarantee authentic content from their applicants.
That really sounds very scary and a big issue they need to address ASAP. You know, I would think, David, that they would kind of highlight it when it comes to, you know, the ACT or the SAT. Got to do the essay, of course, in person. But wow, for an application, I don't know how you make sure it's authentic.
I completely agree. And the SAT, unfortunately, actually discontinued its essay, and the ACT still has its essay, but no one needs to take it because colleges don't even look at it. So I really think that they need to rethink that, because right now they don't have any verified content from applicants. And to be honest, this was already a problem. I mean, you can Google, write my application essays for me, and there's a million firms that are out there to write your essays for you. Again, students should not do that, but it was always provided basically to the wealthy. The irony is ChatGPT has now allowed everyone to cheat. It's democratized cheating, which is wrong, but hopefully it will be enough to push colleges to actually fix the problem that already existed and is just much larger now.
Wow, interesting stuff. Very cutting edge as always, David. Thank you for that. What else can we talk about with regards to AP exams, SAT, ACT, that whole process that we haven't talked about already?
And one thing to put on people's radar is that next year, the SAT is changing from its current format from a 3-hour paper exam into a 2-hour digital exam that's going to be adaptive. So it's actually a good change, but for any families who have a sophomore right now, they need to be aware that in the middle of their child's junior year, that SAT is going to completely change. So the current SAT is only going to be offered until December 2023. The next SAT that's offered is in March of 2024. Very different test. So students should not start prepping for the current SAT unless they know that they'll be done by December if they're going to be a junior next year, or they should take the ACT. So something to consider.
Dumb question. How does the 2-hour digital exam differ from what the exam is now?
It's a great question. So the math and grammar are basically the same, but it's the reading that's going to change. And instead of being, a long reading passage and then maybe 10 questions on that reading passage, students will only get one short passage and then one question on that short passage. So no more long passages. There's also just more reasoning questions and some actually cool questions. I actually think that they did a good job on the remake, but this first year of students will unfortunately be guinea pigs for the new test.
Yeah, that's wild. I always enjoy talking with you because you know what's coming and you know like where we are in terms of testing and maybe how to get an edge and what students and parents need to know about. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go, David? This has been great, very helpful.
Thank you. Just if families would like a vetted list of the best tutors, they can head to nationaltestprep.org, and we would be happy to, help you find the best tutors in your area.
Awesome, David Blobaum. We really appreciate your expertise and your thoughts and all that valuable information you're sharing with so many people here in Memphis and across the Mid-South. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Hey, I'm First Alert meteorologist Sergey Galindo. A couple of spotty showers as we go through the morning hours. By this afternoon and evening, we'll see more rain and even some storms filling in. You can see we're under a low threat for severe weather. It's a category 1 out of 5. Most of the energy with this system is going to be right along the coast, but we can't rule out that any storms that do develop on the stronger side could produce some gusty wind and hail and definitely the potential for some heavy rainfall. That's going to be the highest, a 7 out of 10, wind 4 out of 10. 10, and hail on the lower side, a 2 out of 10. We'll watch this closely. Here is the reason why. We're tracking an area of low pressure and a cold front that's going to be moving toward the east. That will bring that potential for some isolated storms as well as some rain. So as we go through time, again, just a spotty shower or two as we go through the lunch hour. Right around noon, most of those showers will be off to the north, Blytheville, Brownsville, potentially seeing some of that. I think we'll see a break, a nice dry slot, and that could allow some breaks in those clouds. Now, those breaks could mean that the atmosphere could become more unstable with those temperatures heating up. So the more cloudy we say, the less likely we'll see storms. The more sunshine we see, the more likely we could see some isolated strong storms. So right around 5 o'clock, this particular model does show some breaks in those clouds, which could mean, again, some isolated to scattered showers and storms, which you see right around 7 o'clock starting to approach the area. Some of it, again, could be in the form of some very heavy rain at 8 o'clock. Could be tracking some heavy rain and storms in eastern Arkansas and North Mississippi. That starts to push west of the Mississippi River, east of the Mississippi River, rather, into the metro, Memphis and Shelby County. Right around 9 o'clock, I think you could be seeing some heavy rain by then. That heavy rain threat will expand more into West Tennessee and North Mississippi as we head around 9, 10 o'clock. And then by 11, it really starts to lose its punch when it comes to that system. It starts to weaken as it moves off toward the east. So we'll just be left with a few showers right around midnight, and we'll dry out after that. Rainfall totals, they're going to vary, but it'll be anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, really depending upon location and where we get in on some of that heavy rainfall from some of those potential storms. Here's a look at the temperatures for today, starting off in the 50s, but climbing into the upper 60s this afternoon. Scattered showers and storms starting at 3 o'clock, lasting into tonight. 57 degrees is where we'll fall tonight. Rain and storms mainly before midnight, and those winds out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's a look at your forecast for tomorrow. It's going to be dry. We are going to be left with some clouds, though. Temperatures in the low 70s. I think we'll see increasingly more sunshine as we get into the afternoon. Northwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Let's talk about where we go from there. For your weekend, it's actually coming in a bit drier. 20% chance for some showers on Saturday, but Sunday I think will be rain-free and even into your Monday. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast. You can see those temperatures. They're going to remain pretty steady for most of the week. Not until Wednesday will we really head right around our average, which is 75. But today, 69 degrees, 71 on Friday. Again, there is that small chance for a couple of showers on Saturday, and it looks like the timing now will put most of that in the morning, but we'll watch it for any changes. By Sunday, 70 degrees under partly cloudy skies, and then Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday, we are looking at just a lot of sunshine and dry conditions.
Okay, take a look at the latest edition of Memphis Magazine. FedEx at 50 yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That is Raj Subramaniam. We talked to John Sparks, the author of that article. That is in the edition today and this month. Also is some focus on some eats and some drinks and some local places to go. And joining me now to talk more about this article, Dining Out, for example, Sam Chichi, the author of it. He's joining us on the digital desk to talk about this month's edition of Memphis Magazine. Good to see you again, Sam, as always. Tell me about this Hook Point Brewery tap room. I'm familiar with Hook Point. I believe there's an affiliation with veterans. And I think they brew the beer out in Collierville, but this new tap room's in East Memphis. Am I right so far?
That's right. Yeah, the founder, Mike Sadler, he's a former Navy pilot. Kind of made his career out of that, and is still flying today for FedEx. But yeah, the name Flat Hat for their kind of signature beer brand comes from the term for unauthorized low altitude flying. So you can see those kind of veteran Navy fingerprints all over the really cool stuff. But yeah, Mike has been operating the Flat Hat brand since 2014, actually, but most of their beer has been available from their distribution center out in Collierville. And, during the pandemic, he kind of started looking around for places he could set up a tap room, because that had always been part of his goal to, create this space kind of in the heart of the city where people could come and, try more of their beers. They could try more things, maybe serve some food as well. So they opened this place up in Brookhaven Circle just a couple months ago. And, I think East Memphis has really taken a liking to it. I hopped out there a couple months ago, and, it was a really great environment, a very nice open space, so many different beers to try, a lot of really cool bar snacks. You know, if you're a beer fan, you got to try it out. I know Flat Hat hasn't been readily available to a lot of people, or they might just have missed it. So this is a great opportunity to just try a new beer and add something to your beer collection.
Yeah, you had the tough assignment of going out there and going to Tap Room and trying the beers and trying the food. You said it's only been open a short time. Brookhaven Circle's become such a trendy spot there, you know, with Hog and Hominy and several others. It sounds like a great spot for a tap room as well. Tell me a little more about the atmosphere. Is it a big place inside? Is it inside and out?
Hey, it's inside and out. It was still kind of wintry when I went over, so the patio was closed. But yeah, they've got a really spacious interior. They've got a really long, very nice bar you can sit at if you want to just hang out by yourself and watch the game. But they've got a separate, really large room, which has some pretty big tables. I think they've got a large community table in there alongside a bunch of other, you know, smaller ones. So it's a great place to go if you want to just, you know, have a beer for fun after work or something, or if you just want to, you know, even take the family out or grab a large group of friends and, you know, sit at that table, maybe meet some other Memphians and strike up a conversation. Or, you know, they've got plenty of shareable snacks in there too, which is definitely something I want to talk about. First of all, I think it's really exciting that a brewery or a tap room is, you know, kind of serving its own food. You don't normally see that. It's a bit of a challenge sometimes, but, you know, Mike told me that was always one of his first goals too. He's like, we got to serve our own food. And I think they've got a really diverse range of stuff. You know, I didn't get to try their brunch, but they had these really good chicken and waffle dishes that I'm going to try next time. They got a very cool, like, blueberry compote pancake, which looked, you know, fruity and delicious and nice and blue and fluffy. But for my part, I tried a lot of the savory snacks. You know, I think I got to draw attention to the duck wontons. Those were delicious. These little crispy fried triangular flat wontons with, I think, you know, minced duck and a little bit of bacon in there too. It was just an excellent snack to really kick off the whole thing. And, you know, I mean, stuff like pretzel bites, that's a classic bar snack. There are just so many different things that I think lend themselves to being the perfect accompaniment to a beer. So, you know, whatever they're doing over there, they really got it down pat. And I think another cool fact is that they use beer in, I think, almost all of their recipes. I know the Afterburner bites, these little spicy chicken bites, they use their red ale in there, and that gives it a little bit of an extra kick to it too. And I just think it's a really cool way to incorporate all the cool stuff they're trying into their kind of innovative menu.
Yeah, I love it. And I like the beer can too. You got a really cool beer can there next to Mike and his wife there. It looks like a naval aviator. I mean, you know, you're supporting a business started by a U.S. veteran, a Navy veteran here, in addition to the drink, also the food. You can learn more about Hook Point Brewery's tap room in the pages of the Memphis Magazine here, this month's edition. That's what we're looking at right now. I also want to go to an article, Sam, you also wrote about getting some craft cocktails at Supper Club on 2nd. I went there a few months ago when it opened, and we had that one really nice table right by the street there, right by the glass. It was really a nice place. It was almost like a private table in a way, and I had the short rib, and it was excellent. They call it the shoddy rib, and it was quite good. Tell me about the cocktails.
You know, I only got to try one, but it was delicious. I watched the bartender Stephanie put that all together. She was so meticulous about her craft. You know, it was like watching an artist at work, just how she layered everything in there. You know, I know a lot of bartenders around town are very talented, but I'm no mixologist myself. But I tried the smash on 2nd, and wow, just all the things going in there. You know, based around cognac, putting all the cool berries. You see, you got the little blueberries on top. There was so much color in there. It's one of those things where you see someone carrying it down the bar, and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to grab one of those. And then, you know, you got the little edible flower garnish on top. I mean, wow, I got to get back there and try the rest of the cocktails. I only got to try this one, and already. I'm like, hey, when can they send me back out there again to try some more? And really, the whole place is just so chic. I mean, you have the celebrities and stars portraited around the place. In the picture there, you can see Denzel Washington. You have just plush green velvet chairs. You got the golden light fixtures. I think I described one as like a star bursting or something like that. You just kind of bring that little astral look up there. It's phenomenal. I really don't think there's anything like it downtown. And it's packed all the time. It's so crazy. I see open tables a lot of places. That place is always packed whenever I walk by. It's amazing.
Yeah. 85 South 2nd Street, and it was a good time when I went, and certainly looks like it was a good time when you went. Again, you can read more about it in this month's edition of Memphis Magazine and memphismagazine.com. Sam Chichi, always appreciate the conversations. Keep up the good work and those tough assignments, man.
Of course. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, Sam. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Did you know that more than 16 million Americans are diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, known as ADHD? It ranges from children, teens, to adults. And right now, there is a nationwide shortage of the medications used to treat ADHD. In fact, the FDA announced the shortage back in October, blaming manufacturing delays. But there are researchers and experts that say the shortage is more about an increase in demand. ADHD diagnoses have spiked significantly during the pandemic. Let's bring in someone to talk more about this issue. I'm joined now by Dr. Greg Mattingly, the Associate Clinical Professor of Washington University, physician as well. Good morning, Doctor. Let's talk about, first off, I know what ADHD is, but for our audience and viewers, can you talk a little bit in layman's terms about what ADHD is and how common it has become? Good morning.
Good morning. So ADHD, is probably many of your listeners know, it's a common condition. Matter of fact, it's the most common neurologic condition in all of childhood, not just here in the United States, but all around the world. So here in the United States, but if I went to Canada, if I went to Europe, if I went over to Asia, it's 8 to 10% of kids meet criteria for ADHD. So it's a common condition. And one of the things that we have learned over the last 20 years is for most kids, it's not going to go away. If this is the way you're wired, 80 to 90% of kids are going to have that as they become teenagers, as they go off to university, as they start that first job, and as they become adults. Common symptoms are I get distracted. It's hard to focus. I get bored. And when I get bored, then everything kind of accelerates and I find myself getting frustrated. Maybe I get fidgety and restless. Maybe I blurt things out and I interrupt other people around me. So problems with disorganization, time management, frustration tolerance because of those things for our patients with ADHD.
Doctor, I have some family members that have ADHD, and it seems to affect them in different ways. And there is a difference, right? I mean, the symptoms are different for men and women, boys and girls, all across the spectrum.
100%. And that's why the answers are not going to be one size fit all answers either. So some people have ADHD and they have a lot of the hyperactivity when they're kids. Other people, it's a lot of disorganization. It's hard to concentrate. I get overwhelmed by things. I have a lot of anxiety because of that, and I get frustrated. Some of them have a hard time shutting their brain off at night. Falling asleep at night because my brain is still going can be a frustration for some of our patients with ADHD. And then some of our adults with ADHD can be problems around my temper. I get frustrated, I tend to blow. So how do you learn to modulate that as one of your symptoms that's a result of having ADHD?
So you are the president-elect of the American Professional Society of ADHD-related disorders. Can you talk about how ADHD is typically treated these days? I know everyone has the idea of medication, and there's different medications, right?
100%. So if there's good news for your listeners out there is we have a lot of different options. When I was first in practice 30 years ago, our options were just short-acting stimulants, and you had to take them multiple times a day. And a lot of people didn't like the side effects. They didn't like the way they felt when those things kind of kicked in and wore off. And we know those medicines, being short-acting Ritalin or Adderall, they can be misused or abused sometimes by people that are doing the wrong things. A lot of our newer treatment options are once daily medicines. You take them once a day, and they give you very low levels of medicine, just enough to help to improve your symptoms, but not so much that you're having as many of the unwanted side effects. So we have over 30 different treatment options right now that are approved for children with ADHD. A lot of those are also approved for adults. And we have 4 non-stimulants that are approved for ADHD. 2 of those that are approved for adults, atomoxetine and Qelbree. So it's not even always a stimulant option. And it's certainly not always a short-acting stimulant that you have to take multiple times a day.
Do patients grow out of this? I've always heard that, by the time, if someone in their teenage years, for example, is diagnosed with ADHD, can they grow out of that ADHD by the time they're in their mid to late 20s? How does that work?
Yeah. So one of the myths of ADHD is there's a couple of myths. Boys, not girls. You tend to grow out of it. Only take your medicine when you think you need it. We know those are all not the best outcomes. We know that boys are more common when they're young, but as you become an adult, women are equally common with ADHD. We know that for most people, you're not going to grow out of it. 80 to 90% are going to continue to have some set of symptoms as they go into adulthood. So learning how ADHD affects your life so you can have the most successful life possible, learning where there's a good fit for your symptoms. If I stick you behind a boring desk and make you do that job all day with ADHD, it's going to be hard. But if I give you a job that's a little more interesting, maybe you're interacting with people, maybe you're doing what you're doing, where you're giving interviews to people and staying active, that may be a better fit for someone with ADHD. So learning about your condition, telling your clinician, hey, here's where I see difficulties in my life. Maybe it's at home with my wife in the evenings where I get frustrated because I'm disorganized and I'm just overwhelmed.
When we introduced you to the digital desk, we talked about this nationwide shortage that was it was announced back in the fall of last year. Do we still have this shortage? And my understanding is that there are so many people being diagnosed. How did the pandemic have an impact on the diagnosis of ADHD?
100%. So during the pandemic, as we were all sitting at home doing our jobs virtually, our kids were having to learn at home virtually. If you had problems with concentration and being distracted, it came up to the forefront. Everybody could see it. So parents were looking at their kids saying, God, I know the teachers brought this up, but now I see it with my kids. I need to get them some help. Parents themselves looked at themselves and they said, God, I'm overwhelmed with this. I've always been wired this way, but in this current digital world, this is just overwhelming. So the rates of ADHD and people coming in for help did go up during the pandemic. Then we had a fixed supply of medications out there. And that supply is probably not going to go up, especially the supply of short-acting stimulants. So if you have increased demand with a fixed supply, that led to a nationwide shortage.
Has that shortage gotten any better? Where are we on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, it has not, especially with certain of them. Short-acting stimulants are in short supply all across the country. Here in Missouri, but if I went out to Washington, D.C., if I went to Baltimore, if I went to California, short-acting stimulants are in short supply, and they're probably going to stay that way. So that's made us all examine with our patients, are there other long-acting, once-daily treatments that may help to manage your symptoms, may even be a better fit for your symptoms, because those medicines do tend to have a better supply these days.
Let's talk about those different options because, if the shortage is going to stick around a while, let's talk about different treatments.
Of course. So I'll just give you a bunch of names you may want to think about with your clinician. And once again, this is a personal choice with you and your clinician. We have a long-acting amphetamine called Vyvanse that still tends to have pretty good supply, and there's an even longer-lasting one called Mydayis that has long supply. We have various versions of Concerta. Some of those are generic, some of them are not. Some of those are available, some are a little harder to get a hold of. And then we have some methylphenidates that come in a beaded formulation called Focalin or Metadate that tend to be available right now. We have 2 non-stimulants for adults that tend to be available, both atomoxetine and Qelbree. Both have pretty good supply all across the country. So I think those are some of the names you may think about. So we have shortages of some of the types of ADHD medicines, but we have other versions that are in pretty good supply.
You know, this has been an interesting interview, Doctor, and something that's revealing to so many out there. We have thousands of viewers each and every morning joining us here, and I know that either someone knows or has a friend or perhaps a family member with ADHD. Where can they go to get some more information on what we talked about and any other questions they may have?
I'll give you two resources. One is a group called CHAD. And CHAD makes a magazine once a month called Attitude. And CHAD is a group of patients that have ADHD that are advocates that put together these resources. So Attitude's a once a month magazine. In addition, APSARD, the organization that's a group of researchers, teachers, doctors, nurses, psychologists, apsard.org, has a lot of resources and can steer you in places to learn more about ADHD.
You know, this has been a great interview. Dr. Greg Mattingly, Associate Clinical Professor, Washington University, and we really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Tax day is over. Phew, that was close, all right? So we know that we like spending money as Americans, getting the latest and greatest, and the stress of tax day is now behind us. People may be tempted to get something more, maybe splurge a little bit, but hold the phone, okay? Maybe you should budget more. Maybe you should save more. What are you going to do with this tax refund if you're lucky to get one? Let's bring in someone that's going to help us with that. Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, a nationally recognized financial expert and author, is here at the Digital Desk to really talk about maybe some better choices of how to handle that tax refund. And Stephanie, I got to ask, what do you think is the first thing that people should do if they get a refund? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here. Well, according to Barclays Bank most recent consumer survey, the majority of Americans are actually hoping to use their tax refund to build their financial security. So we've got some pretty good intentions. Now it comes to how do we put those good intentions to build our financial savings, maybe pay down our debt into practice. And I think in order to do that, it's going to look different for everybody. We got to start by taking stock of our own financial picture and see what we own versus what we owe. And if we owe a lot, maybe we got to take inventory of that debt and see what we owe, to whom, monthly minimum payment, and our interest rate on each debt, so we can prioritize what it looks like to build all those minimum payments into our budget, and then make progress on making payments above the minimum payment on the debt with the highest interest rate, and make progress such that we pay off that debt and then the next highest interest rate debt and then the next, so we can get to our financial security as cost effectively as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's not the sexiest thing to say, hey, wait, you got a big chunk of change. You can't go to Europe or the Caribbean. No, you got a budget. You got to pay off that debt, put some in the savings. I mean, I think that is a great first start. Why is it, though, that so many Americans have just a hard time on saving there? Because we're supposed to have, like, what, 2 months of cash reserves just in case for emergency purposes, right?
That's right. At least 2 months in emergency savings, ideally maybe 6 months, maybe more. After the pandemic, we had people out of work for more than 6 months. So you always want to think about, you know, what's the financial security I need and the emotional security I need to get through another potential financial emergency. Now, when you're trying to figure out how to prioritize this along with your other financial goals, it's really important to make sure that you're making the most of the savings that you do have. So if you go open up a savings account at your local brick and mortar bank, oftentimes you're getting very, very low interest rates on that savings account. And we always talk about, I want to make my money work better for me. But if you're getting 0.35% interest on your savings, which is around the national average, you're really not getting a lot there. So I like to shop around with my savings like I do for anything else. And I really like online high yield savings accounts, which offer interest rates much, much higher higher than the average. Barclays, for example, has a high-yield online savings account with a very high interest rate. They've got no minimum balance requirements, no monthly maintenance fees, plus the FDIC insurance. And as you mentioned, people are having a hard time building up this kind of savings, and that's because prices have been on the rise. Inflation has been the big story these last couple of years. Most recent numbers, 5% increase year over year on our cost of living. And that's not just the vacations, the exciting, sexy stuff. That's the stuff we need, like our groceries, like our housing payments. And so if you really want to build this stuff into your budget, I like to make saving, debt payoff, investing a line item on the budget, just like I do those other expenses.
I like that. That's a great idea. High yield savings accounts. And you're right. Inflation is still outrageous. I know we had something that said it's down to 5%. Well, it shouldn't be higher than 2%. It's still affecting us. Eggs are outrageous, and airfare, my gosh, flying anywhere is super high. So I know that a lot of Americans are starting to go back in debt as a result of a lot of things, including inflation. What's the best method an effective method, the most effective to pay down debt that so many Americans are accumulating right now?
Well, the best method to pay down debt is the one you can stick with, right? So the only way to figure out what that's going to be for you is to, again, start by taking inventory of what you owe and build it into your budget as you're able. I talked about a method that's called the debt avalanche, and that's where you prioritize paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first. For some folks, it might be tackling the debt with the lowest balance first, so you can see the progress you're making, and that then motivates you to make progress on momentum toward paying off the next debt. And I know that it's more cost effective to address your highest interest rate debt first, but again, it's what is going to work for you. Even if it costs you more over the life of your loan, if you're going to stick with it, if you see the progress of knocking out that low interest rate debt first, that's fine by me. Just make sure that as you're doing that debt payoff, you also are building your emergency savings, because if something does come up and you do get an unexpected expense like a medical bill or something happens with your car or your home that you must repair, you really want to have that high yield online savings there for you so you can tap into it and not put it on a high interest rate credit card and add more to your debt.
Just curious, Stephanie, for people out there, how do you find a high yield savings account in your hometown, for example? We're in Memphis.
So typically speaking, you're going to find your high yield savings accounts online. And the reason for this is the high interest rates and the annual percentage yields that you get in those online savings accounts, you get them because they have lower costs of operating. If you don't have to maintain the brick and mortar presence, that's a lot of money saved, and that savings gets passed along to the consumer in the form of these lower fees, in the form of these higher rates. And so going to resources like banking.barclaysus.com will give you information about how you can find your high yield online savings account, and it's really easy to set this up. I have done it. It's how I saved for my wedding. It's the first account that I opened with my husband. Great way to combine finances, by the way. And it's really a great way to maximize the money that you are saving, because when you do just go to your default bank that's on the street, there's a value to that, but you don't get a lot for your money in the savings account, and often in CDs, the interest rate isn't as high as these banks that have the high yield online savings account. So I definitely suggest comparison shopping, just like you do for anything else.
This is a conversation I could have forever, and I know it's very popular among so many people. It's just, financial literacy out there. So let me ask you this. If we have thousands of people that tune in each and every morning watching us here on the Digital Desk, if you were to give like bullet points, maybe 3 bullet points for someone that's looking to have better financial success in 2023, the tax season is now over, tax day has come and gone. What would you recommend?
I think you have to take stock of your full financial picture first. A lot of the times we think we know what we're bringing in each month because we know what we make annually or hourly, but what that actually looks like after taxes, after deductions, in our take-home pay can be very different. And we want to make sure we're planning off of our reality, not off of our aspirations. And then on the flip side, we got to take stock of our expenses. You know, we talked about taking inventory of what we owe and to whom, but also this has to include those savings contributions. This has to include our essential living expenses, housing, groceries, utilities, insurance, all of that good stuff. And making sure, again, we're dealing with the reality of what we're spending, not what we think we're spending, because there can be a surprising gap between the two. And I think the third piece of this is maintaining accountability. So whatever's going to work for you to keep your finances top of mind, I like to say managing my money is a practice. It's not something I do once a year on tax day, and it's not something I do when there's a crisis, because that's just reactive money management. I want to have proactive money management. And so I think a bit like, I don't go to one yoga class and say, all right, I'm done, I'm fit for life, right? It doesn't work that way. I got to go back and I got to go back, and I get better every time I do it. Same thing happens with my money. I check my money on a daily basis. You don't have to be as much of a money nerd as I am to have a good, healthy relationship with your money, but you can certainly go ahead and checking in on your money once a week to see where it's going, tracking your budget, keeping yourself accountable, and making sure you're maximizing it with these tools like the high yield online savings, CDs, investment accounts, so that you really get your money's worth.
I love it, Stephanie. We've talked about a lot this morning. Where can we go to get some more information, including these tips that we talked about?
Yes, so it is Financial Literacy Month. I know we talked about how important financial literacy is. So you can head to this portal at banking.barclaysus.com. Again, that's banking.barclaysus.com, and go to the resources tab. There's a lot of tools, articles, information about how to manage these money goals, how to get the most from your money, and how to prioritize when you have a lot of money goals at once.
Okay, Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, we really appreciate the conversation this morning. I think we helped a lot of people with this and just thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks.
I hope so. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, Grizz Nation, you know who you are. You know where you are. How about last night's game? Was that awesome or what? It was such a great win for so many of us. Do or die situation. The Grizzlies are kept alive in the playoffs this year after that win, and looking ahead to tomorrow night's matchup out west against the Lakers in Game 6. Joining us now is the man in the know, and he's driving the scene. He's driving the scene on the radio. He's driving the scene right now. We caught up with him. He's always busy. Eric Hasseltine, radio voice of the Grizzlies, joining us on the digital desk. Eric, give me your thoughts on the game last night.
Oh, it was fun. It was another night where the Grizzlies got a good start. The team that's won the first quarter in all 5 of the games has won the game, and they jumped out to that big lead. They made 4 of 8 3-point shots. So, look, when they move the ball and they knock down their outside shots, good things happen. Now, the second quarter wasn't as good. I thought they settled for a few more threes. They were 4 of 16 in that quarter. The Lakers came out, scored the first 8 in the third. But the one thing about this group has always been their resiliency. They bounce back. They have a big run spanning from the third into the fourth and build a big lead, and that place was rocking. Andrew, you've been in there all through the season, and it's just a different atmosphere in playoff basketball, and you give yourself a chance. I mean, they felt like they could have won Game 4. They did not put their best foot forward in Game 3, so they're going to head to L.A. today, and we'll hop on a plane here shortly and then head on over and try to get Game 6 and come back for what would be an amazing environment for Game 7. But as we said last night, you've got to focus on the 48 minutes at hand and not worry about Game 7, because if you don't take care of Game 6, you won't be there.
No question about it. You know, I have to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but something I saw last night right off the get-go was a little bit different in this series. I saw a more aggressive Desmond Bane. I saw an old Ja that was aggressive to the hoop. Was that a new strategy? Was that something that they have always been trying to do? I felt like there was more aggressiveness last night that I hadn't seen in this series so far. Let me get your take on that.
Well, I thought in Game 4, Des kind of broke out of his shell. He had 36 points. And so when you look at what he's capable of doing and getting him involved early, that is always part of the game plan. The Lakers have had some really good defensive schemes, but as is in the playoffs, when you play the same team multiple times, you can adjust and find ways to get your guys going. And so that's kind of what happened there. And I thought Jaren also in the second half got going. So you got 18 from Jaren, you got over 30 from John, over 30 from Dez. I think 33 and 31 for Dez and Ja, respectfully. And when that happens, this is an awfully tough team to beat. Now, they did miss Luke Kennard down the stretch, who had some ice on his shoulder, but seems to be okay. And, you know, they didn't get huge performances from other guys, but solid. I thought Xavier Tillman in the second half made some big plays, and plays like he made in game 2 when they won, where if you just leave him, he's got to attack the rim, and that'll open things up. So Dez had it going early. Ja got it going in the second half, and it's always been like that with this team. It's one guy going for stretches where he'll really get cooking and score 12 or 16 points, and then the defense goes, uh-oh, we got to stop that guy, and then someone else gets it going, and then, uh-oh, we got to stop that guy. Then you have another option, and that's what makes this team successful, is they have multiple guys that can score big bunches of points in short amounts of time, and then you've got to alter your defensive game plan, and then we'll just shift another direction and have somebody else score big bunches of points when it's going well. Again, they made shots. In game 4, they were well below 30% from 3, and in game 5, they were at 35%, and really, I thought shot much better than that number indicated. Just thought they got a little 3 happy in that second quarter, but other than that, they were terrific. So you got to find that strategy on the road. You got to find that philosophy on the road. You got to find that success on the road if you want to see a game 7 for sure.
I love how you're spitting out the stats right now, just like off the top of your head. That's why, if you haven't heard Eric on the radio doing a Grizzlies game, you got to tune in because it's fantastic. Let me go back to what you said about Luke Kennard, Eric. Can you talk about what that injury was? I understand it was during a screen, and was it on the left shoulder, right shoulder, and how bad was it?
I think it was sore enough where they opted to keep him out. They'll examine it again today. I don't ever like to talk about injuries because where you can see that I remember numbers and my mind just works differently that way. Our medical team's minds work in a much more productive way where they know injuries and they know how to treat guys with them. We've got a very good staff there. They do a terrific job, and so I think they'll examine it again today. I didn't really see what happened. I did see Luke go to the back, and when you go to the back and come out with an ice pack on, you're done for the night for the most part, and that's a precautionary thing. Luke's tough. He wants to be out there. His presence out there changes what teams can do defensively, because if you have Luke and Desmond Bane out there at the same time, you have 2 of the top 10 shooters in the NBA. I mean, I fully believe that. Percentages aside, when these guys are open, when it leaves their hands, you think it's going in. And there's only a handful of shooters in the league that you really believe that if we leave them, they can really hurt us. In 3 possessions, they can flip the script of a game. And Luke's a guy like that, and that's why they went and got him. So they're hoping that he'll be just fine for tomorrow night. They need him. They need him to be productive off that bench, because the other guys, as Elliot Perry will call them on our broadcast, are second units. When you win that battle, that is a big battle to win, especially in the playoffs, because it takes pressure off of your starters. So Santi Aldama hit some big buckets last night. Tyus Jones, as we know, is such a steady hand that these guys, when they play together as a team, it's really something special to watch. So hopefully he'll be okay, and it's been a welcome addition, and certainly fits right in, and he's getting more and more comfortable each time out. It took him a couple of games to understand that Taylor Jenkins gets more upset when you don't shoot than when you shoot and maybe it's not the best shot. He would rather you take an opportunity, and even if it's not the best, learn from that opportunity than pass on opportunities, and that's what Luke Kennard's game is all about.
Dillon Brooks, 2 for 10 from 3-point range. What is going on here? Is this just kind of a meltdown? I mean, maybe meltdown's too strong. I don't want to pile on here, but how do we win Game 6 without putting ourselves in a position to let the game slip away from us like it did Monday night?
Well, he's not shooting the ball well. He knows that. If anybody knows that, it's Dillon, and he's gone through slumps in his career. And then I've seen him have nights where they leave him open the way the Lakers have, and he'll burn a team. So you're hoping that side does come out. You have to almost shoot those shots. If you don't, you're playing into the hands of the defense if you're passive. I do think Dillon scores better when it comes in the flow of the offense. And a lot of those shots I thought last night were not forced opportunities. They were opportunities get his and basically help out, on defensive side of things when he's in a good rhythm. So again, Dylan's giving everything he's had. Obviously, there's been all the talk off the court. And so now he's just kind of had this target on his back. And when you don't perform well with that target on your back, everything gets magnified. I don't feel like you're piling on. Everybody's kind of saying the same thing. But I know one thing, that guy on the defensive end of the floor really helps you. And if he gets into that mid-range game and sees a couple go down, it wouldn't surprise me if he has a game where things turn around in a hurry. That's who he is. If I know Dylan Brooks, when we get to Los Angeles today, since there's nothing going on that I know of in the Crypto.com center, or if they can get over to a gym nearby, he's going to grab one of the assistant coaches that works with him, and he will say, hey, I need to go get some shots up and figure out why my shot's not going, because he does care about his craft. And I know a lot of people think it's this image and fashion and the things he does in his press conferences. And yeah, that's all part of it. But at the base of it all is Dylan Brooks wants to be a great basketball player. And I'll take that over guys that don't seemingly truly care. Dylan does. And I know sometimes it may manifest itself in ways people don't quite understand, but that guy will go out and give you everything he has. And so I think you got to have him out there because his defensive physicality matters against a team with the size of the Lakers. And I think it's just getting him to either feel more comfortable and more confident in his shot, or maybe get into the rhythm a little bit later down the road in the game. It's a fine line because you want a player to be aggressive, but you also have guys that are playing really well right now. And if that's a better option, sometimes you just have to accept that right now I don't have it and move on to that. And I think Dylan's smart enough to know that.
Okay, you're drawing up the game plan for Game 6 tomorrow night, tip-off 9:30 Memphis time. What's the game plan to win Game 6 so we can force a Game 7?
Have at least one more point on the scoreboard at the end than they do.
Yeah.
Is that a fair one? Is that the game? I'm just teasing you. I think you got to move the basketball. I think they did a great job on the glass last night. They won the offensive rebounding battle, gave themselves second chance opportunities. They've won the turnover battle, I think, multiple times. They do a good job taking care of the ball. You can't give the Lakers transition opportunities where LeBron James gets out on the run and has some dunk that, reminds people of LeBron James 10 years ago where he was dunking over people. It's not quite the same, but if he gets going, and even if it's just a breakaway right-hand dunk and he gives a look, the place will go crazy. And that's the kind of magnitude he has. So try to keep that energy at a minimum when you're on the road and try to keep the fans in their seats and not out of them cheering by making good basketball decisions. I think one of the key things they did last night, and there were a couple times they didn't, but in Game 4, I thought they missed some opportunities where they had fast breaks and settled for either threes or made an extra pass, trying to make a highlight reel alley-oop play rather than just go get the 2 points. Every opportunity you get matters in an elimination game. So if you have a 3-on-1, forget about the alley-oop. If the ball is in your hands and they give you a lane to the basket, take it. If they block the shot, you got two guys there. Don't flare to the wing. Try to hit a home run three that seems like it's a knockout punch in the third quarter. Take the 2 points, go for the shot that you're going to make 90% of the time rather than one you're going to make 50% of the time, because in the end, that will pay off. So I think they did a much better job of that last night. They've got to find that same rhythm on the road. They've struggled on the road this year. Just get out there and try to push the tempo. It's no secret that the Lakers are a much older team than the Grizzlies. And last night at times, the Grizzlies looked much more athletic. Use that athleticism to your advantage. And I think continue to just be on a string defensively. Anthony Davis is going to make some tough shots. He had 31 and 19 last night. And you still won the ball game. You were winning the ball game because you got the Lakers to settle for threes from guys you wanted them to shoot. Although I don't think LeBron James goes 1 of 9 from 3 tomorrow night. I still would take LeBron James shooting from 27 feet than LeBron James driving to the basket using that size and either creating contact or finishing at the rim. Get guys out of rhythm. Austin Reeves has hurt you. Rui Hachimura did not hurt you last night the way he has in other games. Don't let those guys come in and forget about them and let them have big nights with wide open shots, which then opens up the door for everybody else on the Lakers, including LeBron and AD. So make it as difficult as you can. And then just like I said, push the tempo, move the basketball, and see a couple of threes go down early, and don't settle for them. Use them in the flow of the offense as best you can.
Is there any surprise that you would like to tell the viewers to watch out for? You know, we kind of know, you know, the players. We've known this is Game 6, so we kind of know the back and forth. Is there something, I guess some people would call it an X factor to look out for? We only got about a minute left. What's the X factor?
I would say Tyus Jones. I think he's yet to really have a scoring game where he can get good looks. And part of that is because without Steven Adams, there's not the high ball screen or even a rolling Brandon Clark who's so athletic. It's changed Tyus' complexion on the offensive end. But if Tyus stays aggressive and gets into double figures tomorrow night, that is a really, really good sign for the Grizzlies, as long as Ja Morant is getting his as well. So I would look for that to be the X factor. Santi Aldama gave you some nice minutes last night. Or even Xavier Tillman. If any of those three guys have, 15 or more, good things are going to happen for the Grizz.
Awesome. Eric Hasseltine, radio voice of the Memphis Grizzlies. What an exciting game last night. We appreciate it. Have a safe trip out to the West. Bring home a victory for us so we can hang out and watch Game 7, all right?
I will look forward to it. My apologies for being late, but you did help me today, Andrew, because now you've delayed my workout by 15 minutes, and so I'm just going to cut that 15 minutes off of it and save my knees for a couple more days.
Hey, I'm here for you, bro. Awesome stuff, dude. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
All right. Appreciate
Take care, bro.
you. You too. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We really appreciate you joining us each and every weekday morning. We have thousands of viewers, and we certainly do not take that for granted. So thank you so much. Action News 5 Midday is coming up at the top of the hour with Ariana Poindexter. And then you can join us once again tomorrow morning for another edition of the Digital Desk. Take care.